What's happening, Gaming Outsiders? On episode 418, Zack, Alyssa, and I talk about what games are better quality, the classics or those with a more modern flair to them. In news, we have new trailers for Dead Space and the Super Mario Bros. Movie, plus Overwatch 2 launched this week with some problems. New games discussed this week include Caffeine, Victoria's Legacy, Soulstice, and Bonerise Minions. This is the Gaming Outsider. Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 418 of The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community, which can be found at thegamingoutsider.com. It's Sunday, October 9th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and joining me are my friends. First off, a guy that is almost as busy as I am on the weekends these days, Mr. Zack Parkerson.
Yeah, being an adult sucks. 418 is a big number.
It is a big number.
That's a lot.
It gets bigger by one every week.
Wow. When you think about it like that, it's certainly math.
So what have you been so busy with? Like, you're not usually a weekend busy person.
No, I feel like because I moved, I'm still like learning the town. So I feel like there's just always something to do on the weekend to do something, you know, or I'm getting roped into things. People want to hang out with me. It's disgusting.
You have friends? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable.
And you still haven't been to next level yet, have you?
No, I still have not. No, that's true.
I'm jealous
you
that you're in a city with Kinokuniya in it.
What?
There's a store called Kinokuniya, and they sell manga both in Japanese and English, and they also have like Japanese food and drinks that you can buy there.
God. Sounds great.
And I've always wanted to go to one, but they're in so few cities, and you live in a city that has one.
I will send you a video and make you jealous.
And the other voice you hear, obviously, is Miss Alyssa White.
It is.
Alyssa, how are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Pretty exhausted. This month is going to be a long month, but I got half of it under my belt. I did a homecoming dance.
Oh, wow.
Last night, actually. 932 kids, and it was insane.
That's a lot of kids.
It was a good time, so it was a lot of kids. But let's go ahead and jump into what's going on this week. We do have a couple things to talk about. First off, Mortal Kombat is officially 30 years old as of yesterday. Was it yesterday or was it Friday? I think it might have been Friday.
Well,
30 years old. Doesn't that make you feel...
It's as old as I am.
Right.
That came out the year you were born?
I guess so, if it just turned 30, and I turned 30 this year, so.
Yeah. I already know Zack responded on Twitter saying that Sub-Zero was his favorite Mortal Kombat character. Do you have a favorite character, Alyssa?
I haven't really played it a lot, so I don't have a favorite.
I haven't either. I was always a Street Fighter guy, so I could tell you my favorite Street Fighter character, but that's not really, part of this conversation. So, up to what, 11 games now in the Mortal Kombat series?
Well, 11,
is that right?
11 core games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's
definitely Shaolin Monks, and there was Mortal Kombat Mythologies and Mortal Kombat Spec Ops on PS1. There have been quite a few. It really wasn't like I watched that video or whatever that Ed Boon tweeted out. And I was like,
oh, you did watch it, okay?
And I was like, oh, I think I might have interacted with every piece of Mortal Kombat media. Like I've played all the games. I've seen all the movies of varied quality. I watched the animated movies. They did a cartoon show, I think, back in the 90s I didn't see, but like I've seen that live action show. I was like, oh, I guess I'm a Mortal Kombat fan. I don't know. I don't know.
I would say you are, yeah.
Yeah, I've even read the comics on the DC app. Like, yeah, I guess I like Mortal Kombat.
I like that last movie. It was it's on a theater and then one up on HBO.
The live action one.
Yeah,
that was great. That last fight between Scorpion and Sub-Zero was so cool.
It
really was. They were able to pull that off. It was very cool. So, also want to give everybody a heads up. On next week's episode, we're going to have a little bonus section for you. We have an interview lined up with a guy named Brian Wilson, who is the developer of a game called The Forest Cathedral. Alyssa and I are going to be talking with him on Wednesday this week. Really looking forward to that. So if you guys hear this, and I encourage you to check out the trailer for that game because it looks really interesting. Would love to get some questions from the community to be able to ask him when we talk about this game. So check it out. Let us know what you think. But let's get into the games that we've been catching up on, which apparently is nothing.
Right.
Just now realized.
We're just like every other game podcast out there. We don't have time to play games.
Yeah. I should have just skipped right over it. Maybe I should have, but I didn't scroll down far enough to realize that I wasn't the only one that didn't play anything new this week. I just, played something new, but nothing that we're catching up on.
So. We're so focused on playing the hot new releases,
That's exactly right.
I did finish Saints Row.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I remember you talked about that a few weeks ago, but you had just scratched the surface. I didn't realize you were still playing it regularly.
I played it every night. Yeah.
Wow. So was it good? You must have liked it if you played it all the way through.
I'd say solid 7 out of 10.
That's a pretty good score.
It's fun. It does get repetitive, but the main storyline, I actually really enjoyed it.
Oh,
Did it feel like old school Saints Row? Like the humor and stuff was
Oh,
there?
yeah.
Or did they just kind of take the serious?
It felt like Saints Row 3 and 4. I didn't really see where people were saying it was more serious.
I mean, I don't know. The clips I saw made me suicidal, so I don't think the new Saints Row is for me.
I do like cheesy fun, so
it seems a little cheesier. I don't know. Yeah. Why did they change why did they change the name of the garage shop? Why isn't it Rim Jobs? What's that about?
They're probably offending people.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that when I first thought about it, how it was Jim Robs. I'm like, it used to be reversed.
Yeah, well, I mean, the point of Saints Row used to be to offend people.
Right. Yeah, this one doesn't have anything offensive in it. I will say that. They are playing it safe in that regard.
There's no baseball bats?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they have
phallic baseball bats?
Yeah, of that nature. You can still use melee weapons, but not of the adult nature.
I feel like that's an iconic part of the franchise.
Yeah, what?
Strap it on.
Wasn't there the whole multiplayer mode where it was just everybody beating each other with strapping it ons?
I don't know. I never played with anyone online.
I love that you caught that giant bomb reference, man. That makes me happy.
Absolutely.
I did not catch it, so yay.
Go just YouTube giant bomb, strap it on. That when they were reading the press release when Saints Row the Third was being released.
That's
one of their
favorite. Better bits. I think my favorite bit is when Ryan and Vinny had an ongoing bet about whether or not Sam Fisher would wear the night vision goggles in Splinter Cell Conviction. It was just hilarious how they got very serious about night vision goggles. And
I don't remember that one.
Oh man, I'll have to send you a clip.
There were so many good giant bomb bits that I used to go back and watch. Batman.com.
Oh man,
good.
Yeah, that core cast.
Well, let's stop talking about other podcasts.
Well, the podcast we're talking about is not existent anymore. To be fair,
That's true. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into the week's news. All right, couple of trailers to talk about. First off, the Super Mario Brothers movie trailer released this past week. It's just a teaser, but it releases on April 7th in theaters. We also did get a trailer for the Dead Space remake. It actually shows some of the gameplay, and that releases on January 27th. And I also wanted to mention this trailer for a game called The Entropy Center, which releases on November 3rd. I think that looks super interesting and is definitely worth some people's attention. But also in the rumor mill, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare 2 is allegedly in development. Steam Decks are available to order now without a wait time whatsoever. Overwatch 2 had a bit of a rough launch this week. And lastly, Bayonetta 3 won't have the original voice actor for the title role. Zack, you've been gone a little bit, so I'm going to give you first crack at which story you'd like to discuss.
It is me, the Super Mario. It's my impression of it sounds spot on. I feel like Super Mario Brothers movie trailer, it's kind of a big deal. For one thing, it looked awesome until Mario showed up.
Yeah, the animation is beautiful.
You're one of those.
No, I'm not one of those. No, it looks like the most expensive animated movie I've ever seen. Just like the shading and the lighting and everything when Jack Black's Bowser's terrorizing those penguins, it just looked expensive.
Well, even just the Bowser's castle flying in and those spiked wrecking balls dropping and I don't know, it looks really good.
Yeah, it's just when Mario spoke, it's just a little jarring to not hear the original voice.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's an ongoing frustration that voice actors can't cross mediums.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when they do it and then the celebrity doesn't even appear to be trying, it's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, there was not a whole lot from Chris Pratt's Mario.
Right.
I didn't find it like offensive or anything. I just was like, okay, that's a voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's like that's Chris Pratt's voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like Mario.
My biggest problem with it. And I told somebody right after I watched it that I don't have a problem with Chris Pratt. I just have a problem that it reminds me of Chris Pratt.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know what I mean? And like Jack Black, if you really paid attention, you can be like, yeah, that's definitely Jack Black, especially when he's screaming or whatever. But I thought that was a pretty good fit, actually. I thought Toad it's one of the, not Jordan Peele, but the other.
Keegan-Michael Key.
Yeah. Perfect. That's like exactly what Toad should sound like in a video game movie adaptation.
Right. That's what made Chris Pratt's Mario so frustrating, is that everyone else does appear to be trying.
Right.
And certainly Jack Black was great. And I understand people are like, well, you can't judge it from 2 lines, but like also, well, in our defense as fans, they put out a trailer with only 2 lines.
Yeah.
You know, it's the onus is on them to impress us, not the other way around.
Exactly. And we got like a brief shot of Luigi running away, and I don't remember who's doing the voice of Luigi.
Charlie Day.
Okay, Charlie Day, and then Anna Taylor-Joy is playing Peach.
Correct.
If I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know. Is Seth Rogen Donkey Kong? Is that one of the fake ones? It's hard to remember now.
Oh, I don't remember.
I think that is accurate.
Yeah, I think that's real. Yeah. Because there are all those hilarious videos of the fake castings of totally inaccurate castings. But
yeah, I mean that's the internet that'll happen. So
right. Well, it didn't look any more ridiculous than Chris Pratt as Mario.
Yeah.
True.
Did you watch the actual direct where they had Jack Black?
Oh, brother. Yeah. Sorry. I did watch the direct. I watched it live actually because I happened to get out of the shower at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just funny. Chris Pratt going like, yeah, I used to play that arcade game where I jumped on the Koopas in the arcade. It was a lot of fun.
Didn't it come out in the arcade like after it came to home console?
Well, there was Mario before it was Super Mario Brothers, right? There was Mario Brothers where it's just that single screen game with the Koopas. Yeah. But you also didn't jump on them in that game. You had to flip them from underneath.
Right.
So, what's up, Chris? Huh? Huh?
Yeah, the whole thing felt kind of dialed in like he was...
It looked like he was remembering lines.
It really did. Jack Black was pretty good. But, I don't know, he made it just sound like he was so honored to be playing Mario, but it didn't sound like he had really played for the hours and hours that he
purported
claimed
to.
he did.
Yeah, and I don't super hate Chris Pratt. I love Star-Lord and Parks and Rec. It's just he doesn't come off well. And
did you see the video that's
my 55th choice probably for Mario?
Right.
It's just a weird decision.
Did you see the video that somebody did with the they took like Charles Martinet's voice and used voice AI to like
the technology
do
that should be burned to the ground?
Well, right, but it was still interesting just from a like let's see what it sounds like kind of thing. And everyone is praising it like, yeah, that sounds perfect. That's exactly what it should be. But guys, that was also 2 lines. I feel like doing an entire movie with Mario talking like that would get either old really quick or it would offend a lot of people.
I don't feel like I need Mario to talk a lot.
Well, you're the one that doesn't like mute characters in video games.
I think Mario's a man of few words. He's a man of action.
That's true. But honestly, I still want to see it. I'm going to go to the theater and see this. I know it's way early to try to plan it, but I'm going to rent out a theater.
Oh, wow.
For my school, like to, get everybody from the school to go. So I showed it to my students and they were very excited. They wanted to watch it twice.
Oh.
So that was fun to do that in class. I saw a meme today. I cannot remember the Twitter handle that posted this, so I apologize whoever it was, but they showed a picture of like one of the penguins that was like really angry, like making a fist, which was just a flipper like folded over at the tip. And it said they're finally getting the revenge. And they showed that shot from Super Mario 64 where you can like drop the penguins just off the cliff. I was like, oh, it all makes sense now.
It's all coming full circle.
So yeah, it's caused all kinds of arguments online and all that, but we're all gonna see it. there's no way that movie's not going to do well. And
Right.
it gives me hope for the future of animated movies based on Nintendo properties because that just seems perfect.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to rush out like I did for Sonic, but, once again, Sega does what Nintendo don't, making an excellent live-action movie.
Oh,
Did you see that the Super Mario Brothers movie with Don Hoskins was on sale for $3?
Bob Hoskins.
Like the day that announced it?
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah. It's still a fun movie, but it's redonkulous.
Yeah, we did
I've
a
never seen it.
Patreon episode about it.
Alyssa, you should watch it and then go listen to our episode talking about
should.
it. Seriously, it's like a $3 rental on Amazon or something. Just strap yourself in and prepare yourself.
I mean, it can't be any
But,
worse than The Room. I have watched The Room, so
No, I don't. I don't even think it's a bad movie. It's just a little distracting because John Leguizamo is noticeably drunk.
Yes,
and
that's actually true. He and Bob Hoskins both were drunk. Apparently, so drunk that John Leguizamo crashed a vehicle and injured Bob Hoskins during the filming so badly that he had to wear a cast on his arm, which is visible in the movie.
Oh, no.
Because he drove drunk.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have to see
today.
this.
Oh yeah.
No. Yeah. It's a good time.
It's bizarre.
If you're ever like, I wonder what Bowser would be like as a human gangster that has OCD, this movie has the answer for you.
Oh wow. I never knew I needed that until you just said it.
Oh, it's worth a watch. It really is. I actually just finished listening to Console Wars. I talked about that last week, and there's a whole chapter where they talk about that movie, and it's kind of fascinating learning how that happened and how many hands it went through before it finally landed on what it was. It's just what a mess that was. Anyway, Super Mario Brothers movie. I said April 7th, but I'm very confused because I've watched 3 different trailers and they all say a different release date now. So I could have that date completely wrong. I'm not 100% certain when that movie's coming out, but spring 2023. I'll just stick with that. How about that?
Right.
It
I'm
sounds
sure
good.
we'll see it.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely see it. Alyssa, what story would you like to talk about?
Bayonetta getting a new voice actress.
Boo.
I'm actually shocked Zack didn't bring that one up.
I was too, and I did see your tweet about it, Zack. Which I'm still gonna play it, but I think Jennifer Hale is a good replacement. Love her as Fem Shep, and she's a wonderful voice actress, but Helena Taylor is just so iconic as Bayonetta that it's gonna be jarring.
Yeah, for me, it is, as I reference online, it is like a James McCaffrey as Max Payne sort of thing for me. Is like, when they announced Max Payne 3 originally and they said James McCaffrey wasn't coming back, I was like, all right, I guess I don't have to play that. Like, there are just some roles that are intrinsically tied to the actor. Like, I cannot imagine a world where I would watch an Indiana Jones movie that didn't star Harrison Ford, for instance.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
sometimes a character and an actor are just intertwined, and it's possible I will play this game at some point on sale or something like that because I do enjoy the gameplay of Bayonetta. But it knocks almost all of my enthusiasm out of the sales for a game that I've been excited for hilariously as long as we've been doing this podcast with how long it's been delayed. So that really is crazy. That really sucks.
Yeah.
Really, that's enough to just make you not want to play the game at launch?
I don't like. There is a ongoing problem that is probably bigger than this podcast, a society where we only put brands before we do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like buying Bayonetta 3 at launch was something I so firmly disagree with, would just be telling them that it's okay. And I realize that my one sale is not going to make a difference, but it is getting exhausting that we care more about IP than we do the people involved in the IP.
I get that, but this doesn't sound like it was a thing that Platinum is doing. I mean,
right. So they said various overlapping circumstances made it difficult for Helena Taylor to reprise her role. They confirmed. We held auditions to cast a new voice of Bayonetta and offer the role to Jennifer Hale, whom we felt was a good match for the character. The game has been in the works for over half a decade. You couldn't squeeze Helen Taylor in it at any point during that. No,
that's a really good point.
This is some PR nonsense. There is something else going on. That is absolutely ludicrous. Especially as we have learned, Scott, with like Jason Schreier's books and stuff, like oftentimes the script has to evolve during the gameplay or whatever, but you're using you have your voice actors in place long before the game is gold, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like it's just this is their excuse is laughable.
So you think that she was too expensive? Is that?
I mean, there is a lot of that going on right now. Like Mob Psycho 100 is
Kyle
recasting its
McCarley.
lead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't want to, because they're trying to go outside unions and stuff like that. Yeah, no, it's getting pretty gross out there in the voice actors world, honestly.
It really is.
We should ask Sissy to come on and talk to us about that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I don't know if she could.
That's
a
true,
good
because
point.
she's a busy lady.
I meant more of
No, I meant
jeopardizing
from
her.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Jeopardizing future career opportunities. But hey, Kyle McCarley's another example, dude. If he's not 9S in the anime, I'm not watching that anime straight up. I guess I do care about the people involved.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, that's fine.
I really don't. Sorry, man, but I don't believe you that you won't watch a Nier Automata anime.
Fair enough.
I just can't fathom that being true.
Well, if 9S isn't there,
Now I kind of hope it doesn't, just so we can
Aw.
that's kind
watch him sweat and try to.
sad.
No, I'm not.
Pretend
Let's
I
not
didn't watch it,
torture
even though I'm
Zack.
watching it. They're like, check his Crunchyroll history. There's no way he didn't watch it.
Anyway, let's talk really quickly about. I gotta talk about the Dead Space trailer. I know we did the Mario Brothers trailer
Well,
as well, but
Can I just quickly? I just want to say no shade on Jennifer Hale. She's great. I just want to say that.
oh yeah.
Just
Oh yeah.
make it clear. Abastel is one of the great Star Wars characters. Sorry, Scott. I didn't mean
She was
to
also Samus, wasn't she?
she was,
I
don't
think
know.
so.
In
Samus Aran?
in Other M.
Can't remember if it was Other M, but the article I read said I didn't know who the voice actor for Samus was ever, and this is the first time I actually connected those dots. But
Say if it isn't Other M, isn't it just her grunting?
no, she has lines in Other M.
No, I'm saying if it's any other game, doesn't she just grunt?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Other M's the only game where she speaks, right?
I'm trying to remember if the last one, Metroid Dread, had any voice acting in it.
Must have really left an impact if it did.
I mean, that game was more about the gameplay than like cinematics or story or anything like that. Like that was awesome. But okay, can I talk about Dead Space now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to, I didn't want Jennifer Hale to be listening and then
Yeah.
get the wrong idea.
No, I gotcha. Did both of you get a chance to watch the Dead Space trailer?
I did.
Right, the iconic
are you-
cut off their limbs
Yeah.
was there.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
Whenever we watch trailers for, and I think you and I had a conversation with Grant on Twitter about this, Grant, the composer of all the music for this podcast, about how when remasters are done and we watch it and we go, that's how I remember seeing it back when I played it originally. I felt that way when I watched this. Like I can tell it looks crisper and cleaner and all that, but I did not see anything that made me, man, I have to pay $70 for this game, which was kind of a shock that this game is priced at $70.
I couldn't believe it. I really thought it was, when I first started seeing that report, I was like, oh, it must be some kind of mistake or like some kind of, it's Dead Space, but also you get like 2 months of EA Play or something. I was not expecting $70. That's insane.
I mean,
Yeah, it is.
and because they said they've built it from the ground up with new, controls and everything, and obviously we can't feel that. You can't get that from a trailer, right? But with as many times as I've played that game and replayed that game, it looks pretty good on an Xbox Series X, because they've up-resed the graphics and everything. I understand this looks better. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying that this doesn't look that much better to justify a $70 price point. I feel like this is a game that's going to be $40 at Black Friday.
It does not look
Or it's not-
$70 better.
Scratch that. This game comes out after Black Friday.
Oh,
so
you're
that's
right,
not
yeah.
January
you're-
27th. But.
Your point stands.
So, well, yeah. I mean, I hope by that time it'll be $40 on Black Friday. And here's the thing. It's not like I'm not going to play it. I'm part of the problem, right? I'm going to play this. There's no way I'm not going to play a remaster of Dead Space.
See, but yeah, you are. That is a problem. You are the part of the problem.
It is a problem. But I love that series so much, and I really wish that game were coming out this month.
Yeah, it'd be great
But
for Halloween.
But it
I
would be
feel like
disastrous for Callisto Protocol, who I want much
true.
more to succeed than Dead Space.
Oh, that's still coming out in October?
It's coming out in December.
Yeah, December.
But I think in the zeitgeist of our world, it is essential Callisto Protocol comes out before Dead Space.
That makes sense.
Because if Dead Space comes out, Callisto Protocol will be like, hey, yeah, it's good, but man, we just got that Dead Space remake and, it's so great. Do we really need Callisto Protocol? But if it's flipped, then it's like, Callisto Protocol was excellent. Do we really need this Dead Space remake? Because people are fickle.
That makes sense.
It does.
But my point is, I wish we had either one of them coming out in October, because I feel like there's a short supply of, scary games for Halloween this year.
Well, luckily, through the powers of Xbox Series X and backwards compatibility, you can play Dead Space right now.
I can.
I love the
Actually,
sales pitch.
I think I'm going to go jump into Dead Space 2, because I haven't played 2 in quite a while. I replayed 1 last year, or 2 years ago, maybe. And I've been itching to go back in there, and 2 is just so good.
It was.
Yes.
I love 2 so much.
I think this remake looks excellent. Of course, $70 better, no. But as I think I brought up before, but now they have Gunnar Wright, who is the voice of Isaac in 2 and 3, is doing dialogue for this game, which is, we all know the first Dead Space had Isaac was a silent protagonist.
Right.
So I feel like that is going to fundamentally alter the story in what I would expect to be better ways. Because there's a lot of interactions with Nicole, his girlfriend in the first game, where she's talking to him and he's just standing there quietly and awkwardly. Even though he's only there because they got the distress call, he wants to save her. And any time he runs into her, she's just standing there doing nothing.
Dumb.
Yeah, it was very weird in the first Dead Space, but so I do really want to see those changes. But $70 is a tall asking price. But I also love Dead Space to death. I think Dead Space is one of the best games of that generation, and Dead Space 2 is one of my favorite games ever. So
Same.
this is something I do want to jump into, but that's the same price as a brand new video game. And also my $70 today goes a lot less further than my $60 did in 2009.
That makes sense. But what's interesting is I didn't have a problem paying the $60 for Resident Evil 2 remake or Resident Evil 3 remake. Because those felt like different games to me.
Yeah, fundamentally different games.
Yeah.
This looks like I recognize so much from this game. The settings, the levels, the enemies, everything just looks exactly the same. Just prettier.
I did notice in the first Dead Space, the 0G segments, you just had to hop from wall to wall. Yeah. And this one, it looks like you're free floating through 0G like in 2 and 3.
Like in 2 and 3, yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool too. So it does, unlike The Last of Us Part 1, this does look different in some significant ways, but it's a hard sell. I don't think the first Dead Space needs gameplay updates.
Well, I mean, the free floating in 0G, like you're saying, is good. But I mean, just the regular controls were fine.
Exactly,
what needs to be changed?
That's what I'm saying.
Like that was one of the big selling points of that game, is everything was just done perfectly. Like there was no HUD. You had the health on the spine of his suit,
just like Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I can't even imagine what needs to be changed in those controls. Like, how do you update that?
No, I mean I feel like that was the sales pitch back in the day. It was like, hey, it's Resident Evil 4, but it plays well.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys want to mention before we move on? Yes, no, maybe so.
Hey, Overwatch 2, I'm glad you're failing.
Yeah. You're glad they're failing?
Absolutely.
Are you one of those angered by that they closed the servers for the first one?
Yeah, I mean, that is frustrating as well. And I mean, and the argument of like, hey, man, it happens to MMOs, its content gets sunsetted. It's like, yeah, but they don't put a 2 on it. Like, it's just weird. It feels like Activision is trying to bully its audience into getting into this product that nobody asked for. So I'm glad it's failing. Like, no, the Overwatch fans didn't want 2 to replace 1. That's something Activision wants. They didn't.
And why is that? Why is that
I have
more of a money grab for them?
I have no idea. And then the campaign that they promised isn't there, and now they're backtracking because when they originally said it, you can look it up. They said it was a single player campaign that they were going to add, but now it's like a PvE mode. so it's not even what they promised at all, and it's not there. And it's just screw Blizzard. Blizzard sucks.
It'll be a DLC that you can purchase.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I'm
Do
sure.
you see they they redid all the character portraits and they're all like bad now? It's just I don't understand. I don't understand this at any point.
And I'm not an Overwatch player, so I don't really know the differences. But our community has a whole channel just for Overwatch, and they were. And here's the thing: is that it's not really certain if it was Blizzard's or Activision's fault.
Well, it's one company.
Well, I was correcting myself. Activision, Blizzard, Activision, whatever.
Yeah.
It was they were under attack. They had a DDoS attack. Actually, 2 of them.
Good.
So apparently, come on, man, you can't applaud
Evil.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I will never
they were evil
be for
first.
that.
They're the one.
That's also a good point.
They erased their own game. They were evil first. Evil begets evil, my friend. That's just the world.
I mean, here's the thing: you have to pay for Overwatch, right? You had to buy that game. That wasn't a free-to-play game,
right?
Yeah, the first one. Yeah.
So if you're playing it, you already own the game. You don't have to pay for Overwatch 2. All the stuff, you're not losing any progress, right? Everything transfers over, so you still have progress on Overwatch 2. So I'm asking this devil's advocate because I genuinely don't understand. What is the problem?
Okay, here I'll flip back at you. Shouldn't you get to keep the game you paid money for?
I'm with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I want to understand why it's such a problem. Like that, if you bought a disc copy of Overwatch, it's basically worthless now, right?
Correct. Yeah, it would utterly worthless. Is it a collector's item now? Do you think, or
there's got to be so many copies out there.
Yeah,
although I would imagine a lot of people bought it digitally.
Yeah. I think the problem would just be like, what if you liked Overwatch, the game you paid for?
Yeah. I don't know.
So the big difference is they changed the matches. It's 5v5 now instead of 6v6.
Sai would be a better person to ask. Yes. I played the alpha or the beta of that game, and that's it.
Yeah. Weird choices all around.
I'm still not going to applaud somebody for doing a DDoS.
No, I would never.
Attack.
I would never applaud it. Wink. You can't see the wink, but I just winked.
That's yeah. Point taken. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on really quickly. Want to remind everybody about our Patreon. If you'd like to help contribute to the show financially, you can do so at patreon.com/thegocast. Doing so will get you access to some of our bonus episodes, and we would really appreciate the support. So again, patreon.com/thegocast. Let's go ahead and move on to the new games that we've been playing. All right, Zach, what's new? The list is getting larger this week.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll get even larger next week. But we start with Asterigos, Curse of the Stars, which is kind of a sci-fi looking Zelda game. Going to PS5, PS4, and PC October 11th. Evil, which is what?
Evil.
It reminds me of Dr. Evil saying it, or not Dr. Evil. It was what was it? So I married an axe murderer. He's like evil.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
kind of a macabre town game. Coming to Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One and PC October 11th. No More Heroes 3 gets to leave the Switch and come to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One and PC October 11th. Lego Brick Tales looks like kind of a chill puzzle game. Coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC October 12th. Unusual Findings comes as another horror game if you need a fix there, Scott. Coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC.
It's a pixelated
October 12th
point-and-click adventure. I don't know. That does not justify as horror for me.
Hey, well, Lone Survivor is one of the scariest games I've ever played. That was a pixel game. Speaking of horror games, Bloodwash, a haunted laundry machine.
What
game.
The hell is that game?
I was like, what's with this trailer?
It looks wacky.
I don't even understand what you do in that game.
I'm like, why are there Tetris pieces falling in this trailer?
I love that the name tells you what you need to know, though. It's a dangerous laundry machine. This comes to Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC October 12th. Fueled Up comes to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC October 13th. The Darkest Tales, where you play as, does it look like a fairy tale stuffed animal?
Teddy bear, yeah.
Yeah, Teddy bear. Coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC October 13th. The Witch's House MV, which it was a PC, I want to say an RPG Maker game, another horror.
What is
thing.
up with all the witch games?
I
Every week,
witches
there's
are
a witch
very
game
popular this year, apparently.
Yeah.
The Year of the Witch.
Now Season of the Witch is playing in my head, but I'm not going to sing it.
No, I was thinking of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Anyway.
That too.
Xbox, coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch October 13th. That looks cool. Kind of reminds me of Corpse Party or Mad Father. It was an old PC game. Lost Eidolons is Fire Emblem, but Grim Dark Fantasy. That comes to PC October 13th. Star Trek Prodigy Supernova, which...
what? Dude, this trailer made me angry.
Because it's
like if you did not have the an Enterprise or whatever, a Starfleet craft at the beginning of that thing,
it doesn't look like Star Trek.
It does not look like Star Trek at all.
This is like one of those like be careful what you ask for things where you're like fans are like, dude, I really want a Star Trek game. They're like, here you go.
Not this one.
Not like
Nickelodeon.
This. Not like this. But yes, it's like a top-down action shooter. You know what you think of when you think of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Shooting.
Set phasers to stun.
No, phasers to murder.
Yeah.
PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. October 13th. The Last Order Crew is a medieval action RPG, but also sci-fi. You're like, there's like a spaceship and holograms, but then everyone's got bow and arrows. Looks kind of cool. Comes with PS5, Xbox
Is that
One,
the one that's
PC,
got like animals
consoles.
and humans, like anthropomorphic animals fighting dudes in like full armor and everything? Or am I mixing that with a different one?
I think that was something else on this list.
Oh, okay.
I think. Maybe you're right. No, I think you're right. I take it back. Yeah. But anyway, it looks kind of like a evil or a grim medieval game, but then also there's spaceships for some reason. But it looks cool. Triangle Strategy comes to PC October 13th. It came out earlier this year on Switch. Dragon Ball The Breakers is another perfect example of like, be careful what you ask for. You're like, man, we want Dragon Ball games that aren't fighting games, but not like this. But Dragon Ball The Breakers is a 4v1 asynchronous multiplayer game like Dead by Daylight, but for Dragon Ball. Comes with PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC October 14th. NHL 23 comes with PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, and Xbox One October 14th. Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 Slime Speedway makes it a big week for Nickelodeon video games. Comes with PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, PC October 14th. PGA Tour 2K23 featuring Tiger Woods. Comes with PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, PC October 14th. Trifox, little adventure puzzler game coming to Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, October 14th.
That looks pretty cool.
It does look kind of cute where you're playing, is it a warrior, a mage, and an engineer?
Yeah.
Pit Stop in Purgatory visual novel coming to PC October 14th. And then Phallic Simulator Scorn it comes to Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC October 14th.
There's your lone like scary horror game for the month of October, I feel like.
What about Pit Stop in Purgatory? Or
well, I'm not into the visual novels. I know Alyssa will probably be all over that game.
So
but...
it sounds like there's one game for you, Scott.
No, actually, I mean, I'll be playing Scorn because that's on Game Pass. If I
it is, yeah.
Remembering correctly. So I will definitely check that one out. But of all of these, the one that stood out to me the most was The Darkest Tales. That one where you play as a teddy bear.
Really?
Yeah,
Did you actually watch the gameplay for that? That looks rad.
I mean, it looked cool. I'm just surprised it appeals to you so strongly.
I mean, it's Metroidvania where you play as a teddy bear wielding a magic sword. Like, when can you say you played a game like that?
Fair enough. Sounds like a great gear-gated game.
Gear-gated. I'm sorry. I do also want to mention Lego Brick Tales, although it's a game I probably will never play. The whole concept of building, just them giving you pieces and telling you to build a helicopter, and you try to build a helicopter, and then it uses a physics engine to see if it actually works. That sounds fun. I want a whole game just of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been on Apple Arcade for a couple of years now.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm saying you could play it.
I can play it.
Yeah.
For a little while. I'm going to run out of Apple Arcade subscription here pretty soon.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
What about you, Alyssa? Anything on this list exciting you?
Really, the only thing that's really interesting to me is Scorn, which Game Pass game, so I will be playing. Pit Stop in Purgatory looked kind of interesting, kind of not for me. So that could be a future play thing, but I will be playing Scorn probably the day it releases.
Yeah, I think it's a clean sweep for Scorn here. Scorn looks awesome. And you know what's great about it, guys? 6 to 8 hours.
Oh,
Right.
that's wonderful.
Yes.
Also, the trailer had the voice of Doug Bradley, Pinhead, narrating it, which is cool.
Good for him. Nice somebody
I gotta watch the new one, by the way.
some work.
I haven't watched it either.
I've never seen a single Hellraiser movie.
I've only seen the first one, but it was great.
I heard they went rapidly downhill after that.
Oh, they do. They get ridiculous. They just become torture
That's why
porn
I've
at
only
some
seen the
point,
first
but-
one.
Yeah.
I did like the fifth one, but I watched it when I was a kid. I liked the way the story ended. It was they did something narratively that I hadn't seen done in a movie before, and I thought it was really cool. But now I see it in other places, and I'm like, oh, you guys weren't coming up with an original idea. So
They tricked you.
yeah, kind of. So
Yeah, I think the Last Order Crew looks cool too, but it also looks like a game that's going to be in rough shape when it launches. It was giving me a little bit of Elix vibes in terms of performance. So it wasn't great there.
Oh.
But
you know, there is one I wanted to mention as well. I won't be able to play it on PC because I assume this is going to need a mouse and keyboard. But Lost Eidolons on PC.
yeah,
I mean, I know this is not a new concept, but I thought it was really. It's a grid based strategy type game, but like whenever you attack something, it actually kind of zooms in and does the whole like the battle chess thing where you actually see like a little mini
right.
attack or whatever. And I just it looked really cool, but
That's why I said Fire Emblem, because that's exactly what Fire Emblem is famous for.
Is it? Okay. I've never played Fire Emblem, so I didn't know that's how that worked.
But
I thought it was really cool.
I feel like it's a little bit against myself here, but the idea of it not being all weeb is actually appealing to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's something about how like Game of Thrones it looks to me.
But the mouth movements bothered me in the trailer.
Oh, I didn't
Like-
even notice.
It's one of those where the mouth just flaps and
Oh,
does
yeah.
not do anything to make it look like they're talking.
It's like when I played the Valkyrie Elysium demo when it came out, and that happens there too, where they just like keep flapping long after the dialogue is ended. It's really funny.
I don't know why that takes me out sometimes, but it really does.
Dude, I don't know. Yeah. Let me know. Yeah, let us know if that works on Steam Deck. I don't know. I think Steam Deck's starting to appeal to me more and more. I feel like.
I really like it. Although I say that and I haven't played like anything that requires,
Yeah, I mean the primary reason I want it is because it has all the Legend of Heroes games in one place.
There you go.
Then I could play them all portably.
Mhm.
But Alyssa, you've been playing Caffeine: Victoria's Legacy on the Nintendo Switch.
Mhm.
Look, I know a thing or two about Caffeine.
I know you do.
So what's up? Is this game? What's going on?
Okay, this is a visual novel, and it's an isekai.
Okay.
So, anyone that doesn't know what an isekai is, that means the character dies in one world, usually by a truck or some other vehicle, and then
Very specific.
there's truck-kun.
You're right. It does appear to be often the truck. I hadn't
And
really thought
then-
about that.
When they die, they reawaken in a different world. So in this game, you play as you're not really playing, you're just reading. But you're in the shoes of Taka. He is flying to Japan because his mom has been missing since he was 6 years old and he wants to find her and he thinks she'll be there. The plane crashes and he awakens in this very Victorian era city in Japan called Victoria. And he sees his family's coffee shop there. He doesn't know why it's there. And everyone is drinking coffee and they're like, coffee is the most luxurious thing you could ingest in this city. It's expensive. It gives people kind of like magical powers, but they just call it caffeine. And baristas are the most revered people in the world in this alternate universe. To be a barista is basically like being a movie star.
A teacher.
Finally, some respect.
Oh,
my bad.
yes, teacher. Also,
No, I was being facetious.
teachers are very important. But yeah, baristas are just basically rock stars in this world. And your character, of course, has no idea what's going on, and everyone's just kind of like, why are you so stupid?
Dang.
But you learn a lot about coffee, and I think this is going to take me a long time to play because I think I read it's like 25 hours long.
Good
But I
Lord.
mean, they give you a lot of details about different coffee beans and how coffee is made and just all this kind of stuff. And you also have romance options, but I mean, it's very innocent. There's nothing that's going to embarrass you in front of anyone. It's just
That
like,
sucks.
tell her she's cute. And then when you click it, it's just like, I like your hair. So it doesn't even do
Wow.
anything.
Let me tell you, real baristas aren't that innocent, okay?
Oh. They got a bad boy vibe to them?
That they can't. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You guys want me to leave? Or...
Yeah, you can watch.
So, is this just a straight up visual novel? I mean, is the story?
So far, it's just a visual novel, but I'm wondering if there will be mini games maybe later because it has taken me. I've played about I think 4 or 5 hours, but again, this is a 25-hour game, so
25-hour visual novel.
Yeah,
that's tough.
But
that is tough.
Because your character is trying to be a barista in this world that he's woken up in, he has to go to the Coffee Academia and take a barista test, but only 30% of people pass. So
God.
I'm wondering if I'm going to do mini games where I have to make coffee. I don't know.
I hope so, because Coffee Talk did that, and that's what kind of made it fun.
Yeah, I loved Coffee Talk.
Yeah,
so I would love it if they would incorporate that in this game. But I will say this game is beautiful to look at. It's a stunning game to look at. Voice acting's kind of iffy, and it's only certain occasions. And it's kind of jarring because they'll be talking, and then all of a sudden the voice acting stops, but the character is still speaking. And you're like, okay, well, I don't know why they stopped talking, but okay, cool.
Weird.
So their voice is going, and the text is on the screen.
No, like, it'll just be like, they'll talk for a few minutes, and then the voice acting just stops completely, but then the text keeps going, so you still read it, and it's continuing the conversation. They just voice acted a certain part of it.
So I'm imagining the character like writing on a piece of paper what they're saying and then holding it up to the person for that like 2 or 3 sentences and then continuing talking again.
That's pretty much, the vibe you get from playing it. But I mean, it is interesting to learn about all the different kinds of coffee and how it gives you caffeine powers in this game. So I'm still interested to play it. It's just, it is a little over the top with the caffeine gives you magical powers.
I'm surprised, if you think that it's too over the top, the person that loves anime more than anybody on our team, I've seen some anime, they go over the top, and this is like too much. That almost makes me more intrigued to try this out, just to see
I don't really know
how
if
much
it's too much. I just, it just goes very in depth with it. I guess I'm more impressed than anything that they went this in depth with the coffee aspect and the caffeine aspect.
Right, there's deep coffee lore happening.
Yeah. It's so deep. I'm like, I didn't expect it to go this far. So I'm actually pretty impressed, to be honest.
All right, that is Caffeine, Victoria's Legacy. Zach, I know that you have been chomping at the bit to talk to us about this game, Soulstice, which I will be honest, I had never even heard of this game until you mentioned it, and I didn't look up the trailer until yesterday. Boy, does this look like a Zack game.
It looks gorgeous, by the way.
I feel like I've definitely mentioned on the show before about being excited about it, but you don't pay attention to me, Scott. It's fine.
I remember.
Yeah. Thank you, Alyssa.
Well, I hear Soulstice, and there was an NES game called Soulstice, I believe. So that's where my mind goes when I think Soulstice. So I just kind of assumed it was a remake.
So your brain goes back 35 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. But yeah, no, it definitely appeals to me because if you watch the trailer, the gameplay, it looks very much like a PS2 game.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It looked it's like got God of War energy with like the track. You don't even have camera control. It has like the tracking camera that like God of War did back in the day and stuff like that.
And to be clear, I don't mean that from a negative stance.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like the graphics look like they're PS2 quality or anything like that. Like it just looks like a PS2 era style game.
Right, which I would assume that they're going for on purpose with the with the camera style and everything. But yeah, it is exactly that kind of game, like Devil May Cry or a God of War. style game. Fast, kind of frantic combat, and yeah, it's it's really, the combat starts really fun. And I'm glad I didn't get to talk. I'm almost glad I didn't talk about it last week because it has since gotten kind of annoying. But let's see. Let's talk about the general premise of the game. Is you play as this woman Briar, and then her sister Lute is basically a ghost attached to her.
Right.
And it's some kind of magical process to make you an elite fighter. The demon hunter, as it were, but it gives you advanced reflexes and stuff like that. But you're playing as both characters simultaneously as you enter this city. So not only are you attacking as Briar and dodging, and you have sub weapons, and you have these different combos. You have like a god, like a rage mode, like you would in God of War. But then you have to play defense as Lute while you're doing all of that. So you have to.
Ow.
Exactly. So as an enemy attacks, you have to basically press. It gives you a button prompt to press circle, and if you do that, it'll freeze an attack, or she might do this. Kind of like it does different things for different enemy types, and it's kind of hard to keep track of because there's so many enemy types. But for some enemies, it might like do this like weird splintering magical blast, and for other enemies, it might freeze them, which I actually find incredibly frustrating because I'd rather just dodge the attack. But if you don't do it, you get penalized, so it's frustrating in that way. And the penalty kind of comes in because not only are you doing all of this, but so many enemies are they're color coded with either like red or blue. It's the colors that I'm seeing because I have a colorblind mode on. But it's either on the right trigger or the left trigger, and the whole time you have this aura up that allows you to damage these certain enemy types. It's basically building this little meter, and if the meter fills up, your sister briefly explodes, and you can't use her for defense anymore. So on top of everything else you're doing, you're mitigating this meter that even allows you to attack most enemies. And that started off as like a fun little extra of like, oh, I see. So like this wing type enemy, needs the blue aura on in order to attack, right? Like, okay, so I try to take care of them as quick as I can without this meter filling up. Because if you don't do your defense, it fills up the meter faster as well. So it's very, very frustrating. But then by the time like where I'm at in the game, every enemy is either red or blue coded. So you just have to constantly have this thing on, and then you're trying to kill enemies super fast to, take advantage of this before this meter fills up. But it's just like so hard to do on top of attacking and doing the defense, and then making sure there's 6 different weapons you can equip at any given time for sub weapons, and they all hurt enemies in different ways, and it's just it's so much going on, and it's not even like until very recently I was still getting like every combat grades you and I was still getting either like the highest rating or second highest, so it's not like it's impossible. It's just freaking tedious, honestly. Like it's not fun to constantly like oh yeah, because they'll mix the blue and the red enemies together, right? And it might be one thing if like there's red flying enemies and blue ones on the ground, but like now I'm at the point where like there's blue and red enemies flying, so like I got to make sure I don't swing the wrong way, or if my weapon swings too wide, it'll
clip one.
It'll hit one and then it'll bounce off the other, so now my combo's been stopped or whatever. And it's gotten to the point where it's not really fun. So I did turn on an accessibility option in full disclosure on like chapter 20, I think I'm on, which will just auto do the defense circle button presses for you.
Oh, okay.
So that's made it a little bit better, but that's also that's not the way the game is designed. Like the game wants you to do all of this stuff. It's asking an awful lot of you.
Sounds like it.
I mean, all these sub weapons do you have to like keep equipping them, or like hitting them with the 8 directional pad to use the one that you need to, or
so it's on left, up, and right on the D-pad. But then if you want to so there's 6 of them, so you have to like double tap for certain ones,
right?
Which can be tough to do if you need your whip, so you got to double tap up. But then also don't forget to press circle to defend that attack. But oh my gosh, you had the red aura up, not the blue one. Well, this is all just pointless anyway, then, wasn't it?
So how does the circle buttons?
Sorry, there are also certain enemies where when you kill them, they'll go to like a secondary thing where they go to the other color, and if you don't kill them in time, then they go back into their host body and like go back with a half health and stuff. It's not a very kind game.
Wow. So the red and the blue, you said is a circle button like switching back and forth between red and blue?
No, circle is a whole other defense thing. That's a separate defense thing.
Oh my goodness! So
Yeah.
what switches? What do you have to do to switch red and blue?
Left and right trigger. So you're pressing the left and right trigger to get these auras up almost constantly, but then at the same time, your dodge is also on one of the shoulder buttons. So you have like your fingers are moving all over the place constantly. I feel like an old man saying this, but you guys know I play hard games, right? Like not for nothing.
Yeah.
I platinum Elden Ring, like and I play Bayonetta and all those, but like there's just so freaking much going on in this game, and again. Like it started off as like a fun challenge because the game keeps ramping up in an appreciable way, but like it gets to a point where like it's just out of control now. It's like it's no longer it's pushed past fun into annoying.
Gotcha.
Because
any idea how far into it you are?
I'm on chapter 20 out of what I think is 25. The game itself was probably shaping up to be like 20 to 22 hours. It probably could have been half that long. But that's that's a whole other topic about modern video games need editors, man. And then, but then for the story, it's okay. I like the idea of like you making these super soldiers by basically having to do like a magical fusion of two souls, but it has to be somebody that's close to them.
Right. So
you basically you have to sacrifice your sister or your wife or something like that in order to really do it, or your brother or something like that. I think that's kind of a neat dark hook.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like, since then the plot is just like very bare bones. I would say 50% of the dialogue is, "Oh, we're almost there." Because like the whole point of the game is to get to this.
So it's Lord of the Rings.
Dude, come on, don't insult Lord of the Rings. That's not nice. Because you're trying to prevent this tear in the veil between our world and the demon world, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole game is just this one city. So if you wanted any variety in your environments, this is not the game for you. Because it is all just dark brick for 20 hours.
I was not expecting this conversation about this game. The way that you were like, I can't wait to talk to you about this game. I thought it was going to be all positive.
It started off strong, and then the bosses are just it's really weird because as much as I talked about like all those regular enemies and how difficult they can be, the bosses are like so easy that they could probably just play themselves. Like they're so easy. It doesn't even make any sense. But yeah, yeah. And then there are these cool flashback moments where you see more about the sisters, and those are intriguing. But like the main story is just like such predictable fantasy stuff, to the point where like there have been 2 or 3 times now where the characters like somebody says something and then another character goes, "Oh my god!" And I was like, "Wait, I thought we knew this." Like legitimately, like straight up, I was more confused that this was being treated as a plot twist because like I thought it was that obvious. Like it was really, really strange. Like especially like when they get to like the big reveal of who the big bad is. I was like, oh, I legitimately thought this was something we were supposed to assume in the first hour of the game.
Oh,
but it's like a 19th hour plot twist, and I was like, what? Like every time, okay. I thought we were just kind of playing along. All right. But I do. But there are things I do like about the game. I like that it's linear. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I like that the upgrade system is like simple. You're just kind of upgrading weapons. It's not like a huge skill tree. Like loot has a skill tree. The Briar has like an upgrade path, and then loot has a skill tree. But the skill tree it's very simplistic, I guess I would say. And you get your major upgrades to it via story moments and beating the bosses.
Okay.
And there are these kind of like cool chase sequences every now and again where there's like an overwhelming amount of demons that you have to run past. But there's also just a lot of frustration as well, because so almost every level feels like twice as long as it needs to be. Like it's which I think I already mentioned, but it leads to this thing where most of the conversation is, wow, we're getting closer. And that's like most of the conversations. It's really weird. And dude, it's just this incredibly frustrating thing where like if you hang around an environment and you're just exploring, they'll just say the thing that they said again. Like when you started the level.
I don't like it
dude,
either.
So much.
It's even more annoying than like in Uncharted when they're like, "Hey Nate, we gotta go." Like that's annoying, but this is it's literally what I just heard 5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you saying this again? It's so sad to see the city destroyed. 5 minutes later, it's so sad to see the city destroyed. Yeah, I know. You just said that. You also said it 2 hours ago, but you said it is so sad that people were hurt here. But okay, well, you just said the same thing. You're speaking a lot, but you're not saying much.
I know a lot of people like that.
Fair enough. We're our podcast after all. We're experts.
Wow.
But last comment, I've got to shout it out. The UI in this game, awesome. Not something
Really?
we
Okay.
normally call out, but one of the first thing the games ask you is, what size do you want the text?
Oh, that's great.
Hey.
Bro, come on. They deserve some sort of award just for that. They're not patching it in 3 months later.
And they're just like, pick one and this is what it's going to look like.
Yes.
This is small,
Yeah, they
this
give
is
you
medium, this
examples.
is
Yeah.
large.
Uh-huh. You bet your
All
butt.
right.
Yeah, I picked large. I was like, oh yeah, bring it. I can finally read a game again.
Mhm.
And the menus aren't cursor based. They're actually designed for a controller.
That's a plus.
It is.
How increasingly rare.
Destiny ruined that for us, I think.
Yeah, dude, it really did. And the UI during combat and stuff, very readable, informative, even if it is like a lot of information. I know which corner to look at. It's just telling me what I need to know. It's very nice. These things need to be mentioned because so many games get these small things wrong.
But you'd think it would be an easy thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah, you think it would be.
Yes. It's but seemingly impossible. But yeah, so those things are great, and I do like the art style here is very cool. Although it is obviously just Berserk, like these guys read Berserk, and I was like, oh, it wouldn't be cool if we made that. And that if you're familiar with that manga, so so it looks cool. The cutscenes are directed awesomely. To the point where I'm like, man, maybe this should have just been an anime, dude. Like,
I did read that it was inspired by both Berserk and Claymore, which I
yeah, it
have
is also
knowledge of neither of those, and I should.
Well, Claymore is about a bunch of female monster hunters who are magically enhanced.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty similar, obviously. And they can go monstrous if they are pushed too far, much like Briar can in this game, because she's got an inner beast that's very wolf-like, just like in Berserk. And then her armor is black and scale, just like in Berserk. And she's got this giant sword that is much
Just
too
like in
big
Berserk.
to be called a sword, much like Berserk. And the enemies are these former humans who have transcended into near godlike figures, just like Berserk. And there's a giant tear in the fabric of reality that's pouring demons into what was normally just a normal world before this, just like Berserk. So there's
Is Zack starting to sound like Rain Man to you, Alyssa, or is it just me? He's like, definitely Berserk.
Yeah, it's Berserk.
I'm about to go Berserk.
Sorry, you're recommending Soulstice?
Yeah, what's nice is it's also only $50, which is hard to come by these days. I don't know if I am. I think maybe yes. I think I would still cautiously recommend it. Just know what you're getting into, and just don't be afraid to like turn on the accessibility features, because the game is more enjoyable now. And I'll be sure to mention in my written review like that I turned it on. 4/5 of the way through the game, I turned on the accessibility features.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think it is weird, the game kind of shames you for doing that, because they call them accessibility features, right? But then also you get a 20% point reduction, and the rating screen says that gameplay assists were used to achieve the score or whatever. And I was like, I feel like if I was actually disabled and needed accessibility options,
That'd make you feel terrible.
Yeah.
this would make you feel pretty cruddy.
Yeah.
So it feels a little like, hey, we're letting you play the game, but we're going to make you feel bad about it.
See, there's a difference between accessibility and level difficulty. I think we've had that discussion before, and it sounds like this developer doesn't understand that.
Yeah, maybe. Or, I mean, it does feel like some people's responses are just slower or whatever. Maybe you don't, I don't know, maybe you're missing it. You need every finger for this game, so maybe it is like an accessibility thing. It's weird. But at least they're not charging you $70 for accessibility options, Sony.
Shots fired. And there you have it.
So, Scott, you've been playing Bonerise Minions on Steam Deck, and I watched the trailer. I get the vibe it's a roguelike. And
Actually, I feel like this is a whole new genre after playing Vampire Survivors. I mean, it's not really a new genre, but it's like there's this resurgence of games like Vampire Survivors. Remember when I talked about that game extensively in the past? It's another one of those.
Do you mean every week on the podcast?
Near.
Hey, I didn't.
No, it's a game that you play with just a joystick, and you move around, dodge enemies, attack enemies, collect what they leave behind, level up. The waves get the mob gets stronger and stronger, and so forth. It's one of those kind of games.
Yeah.
I feel like after the success of Vampire Survivors, we're just seeing a slew of copycats or homages or whatever you want to call them. And Bonerise Minions is very much that, but I am really digging it. You said that you were glad that your game was only $50, Zach, right?
Yes.
For
Yep.
Soulstice?
Right.
Yeah, this was $3.99.
Oh wow.
It's still in early access, so you got that caveat, but it plays just fine. The difference with this game is that you actually don't have any attacks yourself. So in Vampire Survivors, whatever direction you were pointing in, you would fire whatever weapons you acquired. You don't actually attack. In this one, you actually acquire minions. So you have this minion that follows you around at the beginning, and he attacks characters for you. So you're dodging, and while the minions are doing all the attacks. And then when he attacks enemies, they drop bones, and you have to collect these bones, which when you collect enough of them, you're able to either select another minion or increase the damage of the minion that you do have. So you have like these choices to make each time you level up. But it's also randomly drawn. You don't actually get to pick. There's like 3 choices you have, and then you have to choose that. So it's randomly selected. And then, you just keep going and going and going until you eventually die. So it's kind of like a roguelike.
Okay.
You're talking, Alyssa. And then you can take all the gold and you can go and spend it with upgrades. And there's interesting different upgrades because you have upgrades that are specific to your class. You only have one class to start out with the game. I haven't unlocked a second one yet. So you have specific upgrades for your class and then specific upgrades that apply to everybody. And then you have upgrades to the enemies, which sounds like, why would I want to upgrade the enemies? But the harder you make the enemies, then they drop better stuff for you. They drop better spells and they drop better, minion upgrades and things like that. So the game almost has this perfect way to let you balance it until it feels comfortable for you. Like if it's too easy, I'm going to put some stuff into the enemies to make it a little bit harder to get better loot. If it's too difficult, I'm just going to keep throwing stuff into my character or into my class and keep moving up. And it's really addicting. This is becoming one of my genres, and it's becoming the biggest thing I do with my Steam Deck is playing Vampire Survivors and now this, which is awesome. But there's just a insane amount of content with this because there's only like 4 levels, I think.
Okay.
And you're not going to get through all 4 levels the first time. It's it's going to take like a roguelike where you kind of are acquiring new abilities and then going through. But then I get the impression once you beat it, it will then unlock new characters and you kind of start over again. But that class is going to have different upgrades and different abilities. It's going to feel fresh. That's the impression I get. I haven't got there yet, but I'm really digging this. My favorite part of it is that much like Vampire Survivors, it's pixelated. It looks like an old school game, but this one actually does the noises that make it sound like an NES game, like the attacks and when you get damaged and things like that. It really feels like something you're playing on an NES, but without all the screen tearing and flashing stuff like when there's a ton of stuff on the screen. So I am really enjoying it. So I know you guys haven't played Vampire Survivors. I wish you would because it's super fun. But Kevin, if you're listening, pay the $4 if you like Vampire Survivors. You're gonna like this too. It took me a minute to really wrap my head around what it was doing because the game doesn't explain things a ton, but I think that's part of the appeal of Bonerise Minions is that you just kind of experience it and figure it out as you go. And I actually can't wait to get back upstairs and play it some more because I'm really enjoying it. So Bonerise Minions, $4. I mean, I couldn't convince people to pay $3 for Vampire Survivors, so I imagine I'm not going to sell you on this for $4. You're not going to do that. If you haven't played Vampire Survivors, go that route, and if you like it, this one does things a little bit different in a fun way, and I recommend both.
Snickers bars are like $2 now.
I know.
Yeah. They're so expensive.
You may as well just get Vampire Survivors.
Yeah, and you have a game forever, and
it lasts way longer.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I can eat a Snickers bar pretty quickly. Just saying.
3 bites.
All right, well, let's go ahead and remind everyone once again of where you can find the Gaming Outsider online. We do have a Facebook group, which can be found at facebook.com/groups/the GoCast. We've got a new member over there by the name of Chris Sessions. Welcome, Chris. Hope you're enjoying the community over there. Also, our Discord server is live and thriving. We've got that link available in the show notes for this episode. And we got a new member over there as well by the name of Trickshot Holmes. Welcome to our Discord. Look forward to hopefully playing some games with you in the future. And speaking of playing games, are you guys available on Friday night? Please say yes. Zack, you're not. I already know. Alyssa, are you available Friday night?
I should be.
We need to play golf with friends on Friday night.
Okay.
I think we need to organize that, get a group together, play golf with friends with the community, because we had a good time last time. There was only like 6 of us, but I want to get a full room of 12. So everybody mark your calendars. I'll put something up on Facebook and Discord as well. Also, drop us a review if you get a chance. We would love to hear your thoughts on the show, and it helps us get the word out, whether that be on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Spotify, wherever you can do reviews. I don't even know if you can do reviews on Spotify. We would really appreciate it. And lastly, our website is thegamingoutsider.com. That's where you can find all of our episodes as well as all of our written content, and we update that weekly with new reviews and episodes as they come. So please check it out when you get a chance. With that, let's go ahead and jump into our From the Outside In topic. This week, I wanted to talk about which is better, new games or old games. There's a lot of debate going amongst gamers regarding the quality of games from the past versus those of the modern age, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us as a community to discuss it. Now, before we get into how the community feels about it, I'm curious of your thoughts, Zack and Alyssa. Do you guys, do you think that people look at classic games with a bit too much nostalgia and modern games are actually better? Or do you think that games from the past, the ones that hold up anyway, are superior to modern games despite the technical superiority? What do you think?
Oh man, it was a tough topic, man. I think. So I don't think people look at classic games with too much nostalgia, especially 3D games. I feel like the reputation is like, oh, they're unplayable. Those controls are terrible. But I think if you just played them for an hour, you would learn how to play them.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have the homogenized control schemes that you're used to.
Right.
Every video game today plays like every other video game today.
It's true.
Except for Resident Evil 4.
Sure, but that was also 15 years ago.
Yeah,
I'm sure the remake
old,
will probably play like every other game when it comes out.
Yes, but if you play a first-person shooter, you already know what every button's going to do.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know, but back then you didn't because they hadn't mastered everything, right?
All right, press Y to jump.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even like Soulstice, right? A triangle is your main attack button because it was back in like Devil May Cry on PS2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I thought was fun.
So clearly they were going for that vibe.
Oh, unquestionably, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, people I think just need to kind of have. You don't watch a movie from the 50s expecting like legendary CGI, you know, like you.
Right.
You know, you're supposed to appreciate the art for the time it was created in, but I feel like. I don't know. I feel like old video games have this rap, and when I'm saying old video games, I'm almost definitely not talking about like Super Nintendo and stuff because it feels like agreed upon that those games are kind of timeless because the design is simple, the pixel art ages excellently. You know.
Yeah, I'd say even half of the NES library too, maybe. I'm being a little generous too, but yeah, SNES, Genesis era, NES. I don't know, like Game Boy, but
I think overall for me, I do appreciate how much more playable games are today. But I also find their lack of creativity completely disheartening. There was a lot more charm in video games previously, and now because the industry makes more money than movies, TV, and music combined every year, it feels like the money guys are calling the shots now.
Which is funny because when we were kids and we were the nerds that played video games and it wasn't cool, we were like, man, I can't wait for the day when games are, popular and everybody wants to do it. And now that we're there, we're like, well, hold the phone.
Right. We forgot about all the money people they're going to come with.
Right.
It's weird. And it's not like movies and television where the money people do come in, but like it's also such a heavily unionized industry
Right.
that artistic voices still can speak up, but like it's not happening in video games, man. If Fortnite's a banger, we're making nothing but battle royales now.
Right.
And this is starting. So I mean, yeah. So it's a little. It is a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but when I think of the games that spoke to my heart, they're mostly older games.
I know this is a tough question to answer because there really isn't a right answer. I feel like that. I mean, there's pros and cons for both, but that's why I thought it made for an interesting discussion. So I'm curious what you think, Alyssa.
I agree with Zach. Like, I think older games took more risks because there just wasn't as much stuff out there. I mean, there weren't as many games, and we weren't being influenced by the film industry and anime and music and all the other things that are influencing it now. So they took a lot more risks, and it was a lot more creative, and it was just really exciting when I was younger to get a new game at the time. Like, jumping from, say, Dino Crisis to Devil May Cry was a huge thing, and it was just like, how can they make the same studio make a dinosaur game and then go and make this game where you're playing as this guy and you're fighting against demons and all this kind of stuff. And now, there are tons and tons of battle royale games and farming sims or just simulator games in general. It just feels like a lot of stuff is rehashed now, whereas it didn't feel like that as much back in the day. Mm-hmm. But I do think that, the controls are better today. It's a lot easier to play, and it's easier for people to get into gaming that haven't played a game before or want to get into gaming. And I do think some of the games have really good stories, but a lot of them just current day, the stories, meh. Typically, if they even have a story, some games just don't prioritize a story, which sometimes they don't need it. But story-centric games, I think, were better back in the day for the most part. Just because they took more risks and it didn't feel the same.
I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I look at older games as a lot older games than you guys are talking.
I know that's why going into this conversation I thought it was gonna be fun because like you're a decade-ish older than us, right? So
right,
your perspective.
So you're talking like Super Nintendo as being really old. I'm like, dude, I was 16 or 13 when those games came out.
I'm thinking old games. I'm like, yeah, PS1, man. I guess that was a long time ago.
PS1.
Yeah, those games are ancient.
Yeah, I grew up with a game where you played as a dot and you went up and grabbed a sword and attacked a dragon that looked like a duck, and he would swallow you. And his stomach was the exact same shape and size of your dot character, so he would swallow you, and he would just fill in that circle. Like that's, you're not sure I'm referring to the adventure.
I did, yeah. Hey, when you put out that same game today, it would look pretty creative.
Well, yeah, because oh man, look how pixelated that game looks, right? But yeah, so we kind of have different answers. But anyway, back to my original point. To be fair with talking about taking risks, I feel like at least back when I was a kid, when I was a younger kid, that's all they could do was take risks because the whole industry was a risk at that point. Once you get into the 64-bit era, and then I guess maybe even PlayStation, where games started being more story focused, the risks started to become more story generated, but also control generated. Like they're just doing different things in the game. I mean, I know we're a decade apart in age, but remember how we've talked about this in the past about how cool it was to play Ocarina of Time, play Zelda in 3D. That was just like something we had never done before. So there was familiarity, but there was also new mechanics.
But then going back to the creativity, what they did for a sequel immediately, they weren't like, well, let's refine that game and make it again. Like, no, let's do this 3-day life cycle existential horror thing. You know, like immediately they're like, well, let's not do the same thing. That would be boring. But today it would be like, how can we replicate Ocarina of Time almost to the exact letter without tipping people off?
Right. And we don't see that too much anymore, is what you're saying.
Right. Well, the Nintendo adage used to be, what's the point of making a sequel if it's going to be the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
But now the Nintendo sequel added is just like, how can we make it exactly like the last one?
Yeah. I mean, look at the original Super Mario Brothers. Remember Super Mario Brothers 2 in Japan,
Right.
which came as the Lost Levels here in America, was the exact same graphics. They just made new level designs that were incredibly hard and not well received over here in the States, which is why we got that Doki Doki 2 clone.
That game is cool.
I don't know, man. I feel like I have a lot of nostalgia. I mean, there's still like, Link to the Past. I can still go through and play and just have a blast with it. But when I look at it now, after looking at, incredible graphics for the past, 5-10 years or whatever of games, I never realized how pixelated the Super Nintendo was until I go back and play those games. And it has nothing to do with my enjoyment of the game, but I still feel like I'm wearing nostalgia glasses a little bit when I talk about some older games.
But they were also artistically designed for televisions that operated differently than they do now.
That's a good point too. Yeah,
that's true.
They knew the screen was going to blur things together, so you drew for that, and that's why modern pixelated games look great. Is because they know that they're designing for an HD TV.
Right. I just remember the first time I saw Super Mario World, and that fadeaway pixelated, like when you go into a stage. You know what I'm talking about? And it kind of fades away, and then the level reappears, like fades in. I just thought that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen when I was a kid. I was like, games are never going to look better than this. This is it.
Whereas Alyssa and I were like, oh, this ancient relic of a game.
Right. But I think that it's also a product of the time, too, because when I was a kid, I would spend hours and hours and hours playing games on Atari 2600 that I get bored with in 90 seconds. Playing now. I mean, just score grab games where I've been listening to an audiobook that I'm going to talk about at the end of the show, where they were talking about Vanguard, which is a game I played on Atari 2600 all the time when I was a kid. And I was like, man, I haven't seen that game in forever. So I went and looked up a YouTube video and watched an entire playthrough of it. The entire playthrough of that game is about 10 minutes. And that's going through the game twice, technically. Like the second time through, it's actually faster. How did I play that game for hours and hours and hours? Is because there was nothing else. You know what I mean? I mean, there were other games, don't get me wrong, but there was just, by comparison today, there's 30, 40 games sometimes coming out every week.
Right.
Of some kind.
Yeah, I think Steam or Valve said like Steam averages 150 new releases every week.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it's overwhelming in a way because I remember just being a kid, like $60 was a lot of money. So I would get a video game for my birthday and for Christmas, usually 2 video games a year. So I had to be very selective.
Yeah, going for those RPGs, those JRPGs that would last you a long time, right?
Dude, so it's so funny because that was not me as a kid. Like
No?
even then, I didn't like long games.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I prefer the experience where, like Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, right? Like that's a 4-hour game.
Mm-hmm.
But I prefer the experience of like, give me a story that doesn't overstay its welcome, and then like I will master this thing on subsequent playthroughs.
Okay. See, I played the trading game with my friends. Like we'd all buy games and then swap them around each other, so you could still play something new. That was, man, I was a hustler's not the right word, but I would like when I would meet friends, I'd be like, "You play games? I got this. What do you got? Let's trade some games. I want to play something new, but I don't have any money to buy something new." So I'd be like, "You take mine, I take yours."
I didn't have that luxury because I went to a Lutheran school and there were 9 other students with me in my grade, and none of them played video games. So I was the lone video game player.
Well, and like I said, when I was a kid, there weren't many. There weren't many. You know what I mean? I was few and far between. So whenever I did find somebody that played games, it was like, oh, let's be friends.
See, I never lent games out because we had been robbed twice by the time I was 12, once at gunpoint. So I never wanted to lend out a game because I was just.
Well, I mean, I'd be traumatized too.
I just thought I was never going to get it back.
Oh, I assumed you meant you were worried you're going to get robbed, then have your friend's game.
I mean, that
stolen.
that was a concern too. That would suck, especially when we lived in South Beloit. Man, getting robbed was a daily worry.
Really?
You've been to South Beloit, you know.
Yeah, but I lived in South Beloit.
Oh, really? I lived in the hood part of South Beloit, I guess.
Oh, I lived in that new developed area right behind the new high school, so
Oh no, definitely not.
maybe a little different.
Yeah.
Uh, so that I don't really know how to answer this question because
The question you posed?
I know because I've been thinking about it ever since I posted it, and I think that older games hold up better from the Super Nintendo era, like you said. And one thing I like about older games much better is that there's less hand holding.
Mm-hmm.
Like there were no tutorials in
Right.
Super Nintendo games. There was no like, here's how you do the game. You just have to read the manual and figure it out. But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because the idea of it being included in games and modern games is kind of a plus. So it sounds like I'm gatekeeping.
Sorry.
I just miss manuals.
I mean, I do miss manuals. But Scott, you're right. I don't miss having to read the manual to learn how to play the game.
True.
But I do miss that, like, there just has to be a happy medium where, like, hey, we'll teach you how to play the game, kind of hold your hand a little bit for this first hour or two. But then afterwards, figure it out. But, like, so many games have waypoints and GPSs, and some character has an arrow over their head, but it also says follow. You know?
Right.
So you can't miss where to go, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I feel like there's some kind of medium, you know?
And I mean, I feel like those games do exist where there is a happy medium, because clearly we haven't played every game. If there's 150 games on Steam alone every week or every month.
Right. Well, I wonder how many of them are like Calculator Plus.
Right.
True.
Yeah. I mean, and if older games were better, I guess I would be going back and playing through the library of NES and SNES and Genesis games that I never played. But here I am playing new games every week. You know what I mean? Instead of going back. So,
but you know, there's also FOMO, and I feel like you're a
FOMO.
victim to that.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era was where I loved games so much because I just could not wait to be blown away by another experience.
Yeah.
You know, like the first time sitting down and playing Dead Space, the first time sitting down and playing God of War 2. You know, where like I've never, well, maybe 2 is a bad example. God of War 1, I've never played a game like this before. I've never seen this kind of thing on screen before. And I feel like as we get older, we're constantly just looking for that next high from a game, and they're so few and far between. Probably partially our fault because we play so many games and we've become jaded, just like film critics, right? That's why film critics are so hard to please.
You know, I don't know. You just may have an interesting thought of like, we're in the position where we kind of grew up with the games industry, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe now the point we're at is just kind of like where it's going to rest and plateau. But we got to experience where new ideas are coming out rapidly, and yeah, like God of War is different than Devil May Cry, even though they can kind of be the same genre, but they're so different. But nowadays, even indie games are just like trying to be like, oh hey, look, it's a 2D platform. It's just obviously Sonic, you know, or
Bonerise Minions is Vampire Survivors,
right? Like we seem to have reached that point, which I don't think existed before. Maybe it's just because game development is easier from home or whatever. But and then at the AAA level, it's just more expensive due to their own faults. And
it also feels like some of those are more cash grabs than doing it for artistic reasons.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Like as much as I'm enjoying Bonerise Minions, they clearly wanted to jump on the bandwagon of the popularity of Vampire Survivors.
Right.
You know what I mean? Much like these other developers. I mean, and I can't speak for them. Who knows? They're wonderful people. I'm not knocking these developers, but when games start feeling more like that instead of doing something really special, like you said, like God of War did, even though it was like Devil May Cry, it brought something fresh to the table that we hadn't seen before, and we rarely get that. I mean, just look how surprised we get when something does surprise us. Remember that game a couple months ago that we talked about where it was a character like in a storybook that was actually literally walking across the pages of a storybook and the page would flip, and we're like, that's a really clever idea. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. Well, especially because he can, in the trailer, he walks out of the storybook at some point.
Right.
You know, because in the storybook, I was like, yeah, you know, I think I've seen things like this before. And then he like jumps out. I was like, okay, this is new.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And now it's a 3D platformer. All right.
I mean, look at our list from this week of new games that are coming out. Is there anything on there that is not like a port
Dude,
or
I mean-
something that just looks very similar to things that we've seen in the past.
Let's say think about almost any game we were excited about. We're like, yeah, it looks like blah blah blah, but blah blah blah. You know,
Right? Yeah.
like Asteria goes, yeah, it looks cool. It's like sci-fi but Zelda. You know, Lost Eidolons, yeah, it looks like Fire Emblem with a different art style. You know, like
Yeah.
That
Star
you're
Trek
absolutely
Prodigy looks like crap.
right. Looks like a giant polished chair. Hey, that's the same publisher as that DC League of Super Pets game. So
Mm.
Oh.
be on the lookout for outright games. Might not be the game for you. You know, and Scorn,
even Scorn, like it looks like Alien. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, clearly yes, but
well, I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same artist, isn't it?
yeah, I think it's inspired by the
Yeah,
works
they're
of H.R.
inspired by
Geiger.
H.R. Giger.
Giger.
So yeah,
Uh,
we've kind of answered our own. So we didn't really land on one, I don't think.
well, I think we just learned it is a complicated answer.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, I think Alyssa's right. Like most of there are video game stories in the past several years I have loved, but I think there was a strength to the PS2, PS3 era of storytelling that I think we're losing a little bit, and I think it's a little bit is because everybody wants to be like taken so seriously, like God of War, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that like you're not letting the fun in, so it's hard for me to. Like I felt more attached to Kratos in the original God of War than the new one because as much as he feels more grounded now, like I don't know, there felt like there were inroads to care about him easier in the original game, I guess.
Yeah, but I also feel like whenever they do try something that feels different, the internet is a dark place where people are just going to complain about it. Like I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the game, but there was a trailer recently where what is it? It's a shooter. But the gun has a face on it and is talking to you.
Oh, High on Life?
Is that what it's called? High on Life?
Yeah.
Which is a interesting idea. We've never had, that happen before. And
Except for,
everybody's
well,
crapping all over
Stranger's
that game.
Wrath, but yeah.
What's that?
Oddworld Stranger's Wrath.
Okay, so yeah, I didn't play that, so I would have known that. You had weapons that spoke to you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were all alive, but then you shot them anyway. Well, the ammo was alive, and then you would shoot them, basically murder them anyway. But they would look
Wow.
at you with their cute little googly eyes, begging for their
Aw.
life, and you go, "Yeah, but I got to distract this guy, so bye."
So there really are no new ideas left.
No, well, High on Life deserved to get ragged on because it's living in this post Borderlands world where writing sucks, where humor is dead. For me,
Yeah.
I'll
So I was
say.
just say that's
Well,
some people. Find it
I'm
funny.
saying it. Obviously, it's my opinion. Okay?
Right.
I'm not, just because I say something doesn't make a fact. It makes it my opinion. Okay.
I mean, and money is an issue too with a lot of these developers' willingness to take risks.
Self-fulfilling
because-
prophecy. We've talked about this.
Did we?
Well, I mean, I've talked about it because a lot of the costs from because the gamers demand a certain length and a certain technical fidelity. No, you just think they do.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at the best-selling games: Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, Fortnite, all these successful games. None of those are stunners. They weren't even games that looked good at launch.
Grand Theft Auto 5 didn't look good at launch.
No, I didn't. Not really. It looks slightly better than GTA 4 to me.
Huh.
I was not blown away the first time I played Grand Theft Auto 5 in its technical fidelity.
Well,
Maybe I'm in the minority, but
I didn't play 4 that much. I played probably like 2 hours of 4. So
Yeah.
by the time I got to 5, I was impressed.
I don't think
Just like the
Rockstar blew me away graphically until Red Dead 2.
Oh, okay.
That was a gorgeous game.
So maybe this is how we actually answered. If you had a choice, if you say time is frozen, and you had a choice to either play, let's say, Xbox 360, PS3 era on to whatever exists now, or pre Xbox 360, PS3 back, would you? And you nothing new comes out anymore. You have that older set of games, or you have the newer set of games. Xbox 360, PS3 is the cutoff. Are you going with new games to be able to play? Or are you going back to the well?
Yo, this question sucks because PS3 rocked.
Mm-hmm.
Like that era rocks. But then the PS5 has just been a complete bummer.
Well, because there's nothing. That's the only reason you're saying that.
Well, and then the stuff that is coming out, every game that gets announced, I'm like, yeah, I'll play that. Except for like Forspoken's the only game that kind of looks different, but it also looks so painfully written that I couldn't possibly entertain the idea of playing that game. Boy, I don't know. Alyssa?
I think I'd go with the new generation, just because a lot of my favorite games were on 360 and PS3. So if I wanted to replay them, I'd have to go with that route, and they did have an impact on me. Like, I have fond memories of playing, PS1 games, PS2 games with my uncle and with my mom here, but just actually my favorite games were released on Xbox 360 and PS3. So
your answer is going to be wherever that cutoff is. So if I put it before Xbox 360, PS3 era, or after that era, you're going to go with whichever one falls into there.
Yeah. So whichever.
So we need to cut that out entirely then, right? We need to do before and after, but no Xbox 360, PS3 era.
That would make it very hard for me to choose then.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, wait, with that that would make it easy for me. I would say before.
You would say before?
Yeah. I mean, but I think Alyssa, the PS3 360 generation, she's right. Like, that might have been the perfect point of where art and business met. Like the games with interesting ideas were like even though I guess Uncharted isn't like this, brilliantly original concept, it was kind of new for video games outside of Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
But anyway, like there was a part, or Infamous, or like there's
I loved Infamous.
Yeah, there's like a whole era of game there where like ideas were given budgets.
Mm-hmm.
BioShock, I mean.
Right, BioShock, absolutely. Assassin's Creed. Like, yeah, there's something special about that generation. Because you had it in the new games category, so it's like, I don't know, it's hard to give up that era. Gears of War, right? Like, it just completely reinvented shooters. Like, that was a wild time for video games, I feel like. That was the height of creativity given money.
Well, I mean, you could say that there was money given to creativity earlier than that, too. Even before the NES era and stuff. It's just that the games weren't as fun to play. They did, look at the box art for games back in like the Atari 2600 days.
But they weren't given the money they were then. Like, after Halo 2 became the biggest media launch in history, I think the money people started paying attention to the video game industry.
Right. And that's where it kind of was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're going to milk this and just turn it into something to make as much money as possible instead of making something really cool.
For the next several years, they were like, we'll give you money to do what you do. But then more and more money people get involved, and then you have the there hasn't been a new genre since the Minecraft era that we're in now.
I'm gonna say pre Xbox 360, PS3. If you're cutting off like now, like games that are out now, nothing new is coming anymore. There's no FOMO, right? There's nothing that I have to worry about missing out on anymore. I'm gonna say pre because there's so many games from the PS2, PS1, Genesis era that I've just never played at all. I'd be set for life, and I feel like I'd be on catch up, and I'd be okay. But I will admit that I feel like nostalgia does play a factor in that for me, because that was when I was playing games just because I love playing games. Like, it just, I couldn't wait to get my hands on more. I just had a thirst for it. Because there was always something that felt fresh and new, and nowadays the new games are just iterations of something else I've already played.
Right. I feel somewhat lucky in that, like, I don't have nostalgia for my childhood, but it's probably not that lucky. But like, I don't long for the simpler times of my life, so I don't think about the video games from that era of like, they don't remind me of happier times. They actually remind me of much more miserable times.
That makes sense. Well, let's see what the community thought. What do you think? Let's start with Facebook, and we'll go around the horn, starting with Zack. Zack, why don't you read off that first comment? We'll go from there.
Aaron Hughes II writes in, personally, new games. More creativity, way more variety, and obviously more visually pleasing. I do have some nostalgia for old IPs, but instead of trying to struggle to find a way to play them, I'd rather get remastered or remade on modern hardware for a superior, usually, experience. FF7R is a prime example, even though it's not just a remake. Well, I think we just ripped Aaron Hughes apart. But more creativity and more variety. Aaron, I wish I could see the industry that you're seeing, buddy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more from you, Aaron. Where is the creativity and variety that you're seeing? Because I feel like everything is a game we've already played just with a different coat of paint and different characters.
Right. Yeah, I'll give you visually pleasing, but I've never really cared about, as evidenced by this podcast, I've never cared about technical fidelity, really. Like, it just...
Wow, was that a shot at Nate?
No. What? How?
I was making a joke. He said, obviously I don't care about technical fidelity as evidenced by this podcast.
No, I'm saying I have a history on this podcast of not caring about graphics. That's what I meant. Okay.
Yeah, Apology. Nate does a very good job producing this podcast.
Yeah, geez, trying to make me a bad guy. But dude, yeah, I'm sorry, Aaron. I truly, I can't even see where you're approaching the idea of more creativity.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about Final Fantasy VII. They took a familiar story and were more creative with the way that game plays. But there's not as many fresh ideas. Like when Final Fantasy VII came out, even though we had played JRPGs before, obviously this was the 7th game in the Final Fantasy series, that game still felt completely different than anything we'd ever played before.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Alyssa, you want to go next?
Samuel Smith says, older games seem to be less fun to me. Frustrating controls, wonky gameplay, bad camera movements, bad acting, etc. Games nowadays are not only just fun, but can be cinematic masterpieces, not only in graphics and design, but acting and storytelling. New games, no doubt, are more fun for me because they finally caught up to what I imagined games would be like someday when I was a kid. They've gone far beyond what I had even originally imagined they could be.
I actually imagined that by this point games would be either fully immersive, like Holodeck, or we'd actually be playing photorealistic characters. So I can't say that my expectations have been exceeded, but I had a big imagination when I was a kid.
I kind of imagined the same thing. I always thought, how could they improve on this? How can it get better? And then they're like, oh, it can't get better than this because I'm like, it had to be fully immersive. Oh, they did get better than this.
Yeah, but I felt like that when I think I said this earlier. When I was a kid, I was like, this is never going to look better. And now I'm like, that could definitely look better.
Yeah.
And we're so far beyond what we were back like in the Super Nintendo era.
Maybe I am broken because like now I see the graphical improvements and I'm like, why do you care? They're like, look at the lighting is more realistic. I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to notice when you're running past the hallway.
Yeah, I honestly don't notice.
I'm only noticing because you're showing me this slow down video.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no way I'm noticing that the flame is reflecting off of the metal that is holding it.
And if you do notice, you're going to notice for the first 2 minutes of playing and then never notice it again.
Yeah. So like to me, I'm just like, why are we wasting all this effort?
Because they demand it. I'm saying that in air quotes.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah. But Samuel, I mean, when you're playing old games, man, you know what you're getting in for. You know, like the controls are gonna be different. Don't let the controls beat you.
You beat the controls.
You got to beat the controls.
I think a problem with controls nowadays is the lack of patience. We don't have patience to learn the game anymore, and I'm speaking to myself as well.
Yeah, you're right. Like, why doesn't the A button put me in a cover? What do you mean I have to hold the left trigger in this Rainbow Six game? That's absurd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think you're right.
We're so used to and conditioned to things working for us the way that we expect them to work on the onset, instead of acclimating ourselves to the game. We want the game to acclimate to us.
Yeah, I'll give them bad camera. Yeah, the cameras used to be pretty bad in games.
Oh man, they used to talk about that on X-Play all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, camera angles.
But I think bad acting is unfair. I think people just cherry pick the bad acting of that era. Like in Final Fantasy X, a game that is excellently acted except for the one laughing scene everybody uses, but the point of that scene is that it's supposed to be bad. Like they're making fun of fake laughing. That's the scene. But everyone is like, oh man, I can't believe voice acting used to be this terrible. Like, it's actually
good.
The fact that you're falling for this fake clip that people are sharing kind of proves that it's actually pretty good acting.
Right. Matthew Brody says, while there are some older games that really do hold up, I feel like a lot of the games these days are trash, not like back in my day crowd is viewing these games through extreme nostalgia glasses. Take Resident Evil or Silent Hill, for example. Phenomenally done for their time, but the controls are atrocious. Going back to them now is definitely terrifying, but it's not the atmosphere or the enemies that cause the terror. It's the bad camera angles, clunky controls, and horrible gunplay. It's hard to not argue. It's hard to argue with him about Resident Evil, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I will. That's fine.
The original Resident Evil?
The controls are not atrocious. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, is there like a complete, like, I don't want to sound mean, but like, exercise media literacy. You know, you're going into something old. You know, the controls are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like different equals bad. The fact that you have to like press a button to raise your gun and then a different button to fire it is an interesting part of Resident Evil, and it does add to the horror because you have to take that extra 2 seconds to raise your gun than you would in a different kind of game. I don't think that's bad. I think, and I'll give you the camera angles certainly can be bad, but there is a lot. I'm trying to think of what the atrocious controls are in those early Resident Evil games, and I cannot think of what you're talking about.
I mean, I don't know, man. I struggle with them even when they were brand new games. Like, that game was cool to me because I hadn't seen a zombie game like that, and I hadn't seen the photorealistic cutscenes for the time. You know, the zombie turns around and looks at you, and you know the dog jumps through the window and scares you. That's why I played that game, not because it was fun to play. Resident Evil was not fun for me to play. Like, I did it because I wanted to see.
It was very fun. Like, or else I would not have played it probably. Like, especially as a kid.
You're telling me you've never played a game just because you wanted to see what's going to happen next or finish the story?
No, I have. I'm saying as a kid, I was much less likely to do that.
Oh, really?
Like,
okay.
Yeah, as an adult, I much more happily fight through bad controls. But like, you know, when you're younger, and if Resident Evil sucked to play, I'd be like, do you just want to play Driver instead? you know, like, and maybe you would have been a teenager right when the game came out. So yeah, maybe you had a different expectation.
It was also the cool game to be playing. So it was a little bit of a FOMO situation.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look, we've talked about The Last of Us, the first Last of Us. We'll try to replay that game. Game is not fun to play.
Right.
It had nothing to do with the controls.
See, but I didn't think it was when it came out.
I don't remember. I just remember being so wrapped up in what was going on in that story and how good the voice acting was and just wanting to see what was going to happen next. I wasn't really paying attention to all the stuff. Everything that I was doing felt like a catalyst to see the next part of the story.
Right. And I'm not every game had good controls back then, right? Like Silent Hill is a good example of a game that is very difficult to play. That first game.
They control the same as
Resident Evil? Are you out of your freaking mind?
It's been a minute since I played the original.
No, no way. They do not.
I mean, there was no gunplay, really. Oh, no, there was a gunplay.
No, the first Silent Hill was, mostly focused on melee.
Man, now I got to go back and play Silent Hill.
I don't know if I recommend it. See, not every game ages perfectly. I agree with that. But
it's interesting how different generations hold up well and others do not.
Yeah, but like there's not. I can't. It's fine. I'm just talking in circles now. It's fine. I don't think we're viewing. I do not think we're viewing through extreme nostalgia glasses.
Okay.
Thomas Bex on Discord writes, "There's a huge issue in the adventure. This is a huge issue in the adventure game genre, where nostalgia is often blinding people from the truth. Are the old games better? No, not at all. Do they sometimes have better stories? Yes, absolutely. However, a lot of the 80s and 90s games that I replayed are not much fun to play because the user interface is not as friendly, their graphics are worse than you thought, or the sound is atrocious. They can still be, and a lot of them are still fun to play, but they're often not as good as you remember them to be." Dude, I think I'm actually developing a pet peeve for the phrase "the graphics are worse than you thought," or "oh, this update is how you remember it in your mind." I think I'm developing a pet peeve.
Why?
Because those old games, and I'm sure it's probably true in a lot of cases, but like, let's take Dead Space for example, right? Of like, oh, they brought it up to how you remember it looking. Like, it's not like all the footage of the original Dead Space died in the ether. Like, you can readily see what that game looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I do remember what it looked like. It looked fine.
So you don't ever look at a game or come back to a game and it looks different than you remember it?
I don't think so.
Really? Man, I do that all the time.
Yeah, that happened with me with the first Tomb Raider. As a kid, I was like, this looks so good. And then it's been probably 6 years or more. My mom tried to play it here, and as soon as she booted it up, I'm like, oh no.
Why did she have a box of Kleenex under her shirt?
It just looked, I don't know, it was so pixelated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember it being pixelated as a child.
Yeah, see, this is maybe I had a better memory than I thought.
Maybe.
Or like Tomb Raider. Yeah, I don't know. Tomb Raider is a hard one for me because I'm regularly replaying the old Tomb Raider, so like it's kind of hard.
Like the original, like the PlayStation ones.
Yeah, those games are great. They're absolutely Last Revelations. That's oh my god, a phenomenal game to this day.
Okay.
But Thomas, I love you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come straight at you. I trust your judgment on adventure games anyway. So whatever you say is probably right.
I mean, there's a reason that, like, he's talking about point-and-click adventure games. Monkey Island was, updated. They made it easier to control, and they made it look better. Still pixelated, but because those old, super hyper pixelated point-and-click adventure games just look really goofy nowadays. They're tougher to sell to a younger generation to play. Sure.
I never liked that the action button interface where you had to like talk to or shake with or like what I'm talking about, like the action prompts on the bottom of the screen.
I don't think shake with was one of them, but yeah.
Well, it wasn't the games I was playing. But yeah, that stuff was never fun because it didn't add anything to gameplay. It was just wasting my time. Like what I'm trying to do when I click on this dude. Come on.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm trying to shake with him.
Well, yeah. Nowadays, it's like you just click and you right click and yeah. It just does it.
But hey, there might be people out there for whom that is the more enjoyable way to play it.
We gotta remember that was a step up in the day because back in the day it was just type text. Like I remember playing games where you would type text like pick up dog.
Right. Yeah.
Use toothbrush. What do you want me to use it with?
Zork.
Right.
Yeah. I played through the entirety of Zork inside of Call of Duty Black Ops.
The whole game is in there?
Yeah. If you free yourself from that torture chamber in the main menu,
so
you can go on the computer and the entirety of Zork is inside of Black Ops.
Now, is that like back when you had like the keyboard thing attached to your 360
controller? Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say because if you went through it like
typing on
cycled through, man, that would have been nuts.
Dude, it was awesome.
I didn't remember that was in there, but
I didn't either.
Crazy. Alyssa, why don't you read the next one?
Kevin Honigford writes, I don't think I lean either way. While nostalgia is a huge factor for me when it comes to playing older games, I tend to think that older games are generally just more fun to play for numerous reasons. Maybe it's just the old man, in air quotes, status I carry nowadays, but modern games can just be too complicated. Being 10,000% honest, the main reason I never finish games like The Witcher is that I step away for a couple of weeks for whatever reason, and when I'm able to get back to it, I've seriously forgotten how to play the game. Don't get me wrong, I think it's amazing how involved games have become, but sometimes simpler is better. On the flip side, the storytelling, the environments, and the ability to just completely envelop yourself in modern game experiences continues to blow me away. I've never been more excited for a game than one coming up here soon, and the major reasons involve exploration and technical fidelity that modern hardware makes possible. In conclusion, games are good, spelled G-U-D.
Is he referring to Sonic Frontiers? Is that the upcoming game?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I would assume so as well.
I think, you know what? Hey, Kevin, I think you're right. To environments, it is easier to feel like you're in a space with modern games. I think that part's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like as much as
you don't have to use your imagination as much.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love Fallout 2, but Fallout 3 and New Vegas are better because you feel like you're in that world more so.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he's absolutely right. Hey, there you go, something I hadn't considered. I'm not just old games train. I do think a lot of modern games are over designed though. I think he's right.
Well, like the one you talked about, like Soulstice.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And that was even trying to be a PS2 game, but they couldn't help themselves.
Yeah, sometimes I miss the simplicity of games that were fun because of that. Like when Super Mario World came out, I just absolutely adored playing that game. I was obsessed with it. But if I go play that now, I get bored very quickly.
Oh yeah.
I'm just jumping over obstacles. There's not a whole lot different going on here, so it's a catch-22.
Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of artificial complexity that I think exists in modern games, like crafting systems where you have to craft your own potions or whatever, but you could still buy all the ingredients for a potion from the shops. So then you just have to go. You just have you're just adding extra steps now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd rather you didn't.
And then just like open worlds in general too.
Right.
That make games longer than they need to be. But he makes a good point about like games being so complex that you got to come back. Yeah,
right.
I've the number of games I've given up on because I had to take a break to do something else for a while and then come back and I just forgot. Like, why is that not a thing in games? Now, we've been talking about it for months. Where like, it looks like it's been a while since you played Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh yeah. I think I talked about especially like if you put out DLC so much later, like have a little thing at the front, be like, hey, do you need a refresher?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why is that not hard? Or why is that why is that hard?
I don't know. Between that and letting us adjust the text on the screen, like we should just revolutionize the gaming industry.
Well, the text size alone is just like every game knows it's going to have to patch it in afterwards. Every game does patch it in afterwards. So why are you not just addressing it up front?
I don't know.
Freaking.
I mean, look at like the things that we have like just standard now when you do a game, like adjusting the screen size, or like how you got to do like the hit this slider until this icon is barely visible.
Right. Yeah. Here's your daytime HDR setting, but come back here at nighttime to change your HDR for low level lighting. It's like, all right,
we're not that involved here, guys.
I'm gonna do my freaking homework to play this game. And maybe you wouldn't walk away from games, Scott, if they're paced better.
Yeah, or if they weren't 90 hours to complete.
So I'm saying, yeah. But if they had 90 hours of new exciting content, you might stick around.
Mm-hmm.
But you give us all of your ideas 20 hours in, and then you have 70 more hours of gameplay for some reason.
Exactly.
It's getting a little frustrating.
Bill Gardner says, yeah, I like going back, but usually it's just a quick trip down memory lane, and then I figure out how much the games I enjoyed don't hold up on today's TVs, or the controls have evolved so much better now. At this point for me, it's only for going back and see how things have evolved today. I recently purchased an N64 and a GameCube, but besides going back to a couple of my favorites for a few minutes, they aren't getting used. I think this is the thing for me. I think I agree with Bill. And I'm contradicting myself when I said I was going to pick older games, so I'm kind of talking myself out of this. Yeah, these older games, I feel like I would miss the modern mechanics. But is that a thing that the mechanics are better, or that we're just used to them and the industry has changed? You know what I mean? Like you were talking about, you pick up any shooter and the controls are the same. That's like the standard way that shooter controllers are now, but it took a while to get there.
Right.
So are the controls better, or is it just standardized?
Well, man, I wish there was some variety in controls.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to press Y to jump.
I don't know. I feel like learning the controls is almost like learning a different language for every game. It was like solving a little puzzle. And now every game's puzzle has already been solved.
Yeah, I just don't think that anybody has the patience for that. They just want to get to the satisfaction part. They don't want to earn it.
Mm.
We have a whole conversation about that.
Yeah, so that's a different topic.
Yeah. All right, Zach, you're up.
Oh boy, where were we at? Drew Ross here.
Yep.
I'd say there are some games I'll go back to because I like how it played, its story, or game world. Then again, I prefer newer games because of the quality of life improvements in some genres, controls, and gameplay, including some impressive worlds that have been created in recent years, plus the graphics and performance of new games. So I take a newer over old. You know what's interesting, I'm learning about these write-ins, right, is a lot of people are talking about graphics and performance, which would make sense, because if you're listening to a video game podcast, you're probably a more hardcore gamer.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at like the sales charts and like that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it matters to us, and it matters to, I guess, social media, which is where it feels like publishers make their decisions.
Remember Puddlegate?
Puddlegate, great example. Absolutely. Yeah. How dare they remove those puddles in Spider-Man?
Oh.
But I will say, I mean, Insomniac's defense was weird. We're like, no, we didn't. Like, what? Okay, you did. You could just say that you had to, though. You don't have to be weird about it. But anyway, Puddlegate was so stupid. But that also happens like every game, you know? It's like, yeah, people are idiots. But yeah, no. So yeah, I guess hardcore gamers do care about graphics, but publisher clearly the average audience does not.
I feel like we need more gamers in suits. Look at Phil Spencer.
Right.
He clearly understands the industry, plays the games himself. He gets it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's doing a lot of corporate speak lately with his Xbox merger, but I still trust Phil.
His Xbox murder?
Merger.
Oh, merger. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he still is an upper level management executive guy.
But he also makes obviously poor financial decisions like remaking Voodoo Vince.
Yeah.
Because he wants to remake Voodoo Vince.
I think he just personally loved that game.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like but that's not a good. Anybody in business would have been like, "Why are you doing that?"
He's like, "I have the power."
Sense. 4 people played Voodoo Vince, Phil.
Like you wouldn't do that exact same thing.
We all would, of course. I'm saying that's
you'd
how
be
we
remaking Advent Rising in a heartbeat.
Dude, that's the very first game I was thinking of. 100%. I'd be like, Donald Mustard, quit that Fortnite gig that it's making you more money than God, and come finish your trilogy, boy. But no, of course he would do it. But that's what I'm saying. That's how you know he's an OG. He's like, "What do you use Microsoft's money to remake my favorite game?"
Exactly.
everybody else can just deal with it.
Yeah. All right, Alyssa.
Brandon Lloyd writes, "I don't think you can compare. Overall, games are far superior today. Graphics, controls, camera movement, etc. Chrono Trigger is still my favorite game of all time, but after that, it's followed by XCOM 2 and more newer games. FFT is still the superior SRPG, but that art style still holds up well. Shmup games and Mega Man games can hold up versus newer similar games, but the newer games try and imitate the art of the old games."
FFT is Final Fantasy Tactics, right?
Right. And
okay, I was wondering
SRPG
about that.
Is strategy role-playing game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
with
absolutely.
Chrono Trigger being his favorite, that's like me with Link to the Past. It obviously doesn't look technically superior, but I go back and play it. The question is, am I going back and playing it because it's so good or because I was a happy kid? You know what I mean? Like I loved. It was a simpler time for me.
Yeah, I can't. I played Link to the Past when I was a kid, so I can't speak there. But Chrono Trigger I played as an adult, and it held up 100%.
Love that game.
I still
Game's
need
great.
to play it.
Dude, that's timeless art. Alyssa, you should play it, but I'm sure they're going to remake it here soon. But like Akira Toriyama art, but pixelated, bro, they just can't get old.
Yeah,
I
really need to play Chrono Cross. The remake is out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a terrible port though.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
I mean, I'm sure it's been patched, but that's one of the most frustrating things with new games, man. They're never finished. I don't trust any game to be done when I buy it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even like Gotham Knights, right? Like I'm so excited for it. I'm like, I hope it works. That's not a fun way to be thinking about a game going into it.
Yeah. Speaking of Gotham Knights, I've heard that like a bunch of the story is leaked online. Have you been avoiding it?
I haven't seen a single word of it.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, last comment comes from Matt. I guess we have one on Twitter after this, but Matt Sattler says, "I think older games and newer games are two very different things anymore. It used to be games were sold as a finished product," and this is what Zach was talking about.
All right.
And kind of a closed loop. Now games are sold unfinished and as a service, basically. I find that conversation very hard to have. I think, honestly, that's why single-player games are still very prevalent to a large portion of gamers. That's a really good point.
It is.
I mean, Cyberpunk, right? It took them over a year to finish that game, and now for some reason they're being applauded for it.
And now they've announced the new IP, and everyone's like, all right, we're back on board.
Can you believe, like, they sold 13 million at launch, and they only sold 1 extra million in, like, the year afterwards, and you're like, oh my god, finally, a publisher has been penalized for its poor practices. And then this anime comes out, they're like, hey, we're at 20 million sold, and we're greenlighting a sequel. And you're like, okay, there's no accountability at all.
Mm-hmm.
You saw one cool anime on Netflix, and you're like, yes, Cyberpunk's my favorite game ever. I don't care that they lied that it's it had to get delisted on the PlayStation Store. It was so fundamentally broken. But hey, what a good game.
I kind of wish I could go play that broken build of it and just see what it looked like. I never even played it finished, so I want to go back and have that experience and then play it for real.
Yeah.
We did get one other tweet. I don't. I just put it in there because I love his screen name.
It's quite a name, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Why don't you say that name for us, Scott?
Joshua wear a Screon King mask strit matter. Is that a word that I don't know?
I don't know.
I don't know what you know.
If you're listening, I love your name on Twitter.
I actually forgot to put his actual handle, so I apologize, Joshua. But he said depends entirely on the game. Yeah, I mean, I'm tending to lean a little bit more towards Matt. I almost feel like they're two separate animals. Old games and new games are just they're.
It does, yeah. You're right. Especially when you removed that PS3 360 era in our conversation earlier, I was like, oh, like that was a transitionary period, right? Because like I look at PS4 and PS5 games a certain way, and the PS2 and PS1 games a certain way, but PS3 is like, yeah, it's kind of this meeting of the middle for me.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting thought exercise.
Yeah. That's why we do these things.
Yeah, but you're right. New games are very different than the way they used to make games, which is...
That's why we call them video games and we call them retro games.
But do you really want to think of PS2 games as retro? Are you ready for that?
No, I'm not.
I've thought of PS2 as retro for a while, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. You grew up playing retro video games, Zach. How does that make you feel?
Well, what is it, 20 years old?
It makes me feel old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad they've earned it. God of War 2, a retro game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, God of War 2 didn't come out at launch, right?
No, it didn't.
PS2 is what, 2000?
Metal Gear Solid 2, a retro game.
Oh, man. That's crazy. Oh, man, just how cool that game was. The opening cinematic when I first played it.
Dude, see,
anyway,
you want to talk about creativity and ideas, man.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Metal Gear Solid used to have those.
And then some. Oh, man. They did the Last of Us 2 thing before Last of Us 2 did it.
Yeah.
If you think about it. That wasn't a new concept. We just weren't expecting it, so it felt new. And the younger generation doesn't remember Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. And his naked cartwheels.
They need to put those games on PS5, man. It's inexcusable.
I would go back and replay Metal Gear Solid. That game was awesome.
I replayed it 2-ish years ago. Holds up.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. I mean, probably not apparently to some people.
Now, the original Metal Gear, not so much.
Yeah.
That was rough. I feel asleep.
I've never liked that game.
Didn't either. I never even bothered with the second one, even though I own it. But.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Zach and Alyssa, for joining me. Before we get out of here, any parting words? Zach?
Well, I've been watching some TV lately, and it's so good out there right now with House of the Dragon, Rings of Power, She-Hulk, all these powerful shows. So I've been rewatching Monk, and it's and it's great.
That was random.
Dude, I don't know. I saw that Monk was on Amazon Prime, so I'm like, let me throw on an episode, man, because I used to love the show as a kid. And I was like, dude, this show holds up. Whoa, this show's good. Hello. So now I'm in the middle of season 3. Monk rocks.
I've never seen an episode.
I haven't either.
Dude, oh my guys, it's so good. I mean, they don't make television like this anymore, the episodic, television.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, it's so nice. 42 minutes, he gets in there, he's acting wacky, he's got the OCD. He's doing some stuff with lists that looks way too familiar to things I do. And he's solving crimes, in these absolutely outrageous ways. It's so fun. Dude, that show's great. And it's got a small, lean cast. There's like 4 main characters. Guys, you got to watch Monk. I promise you, it's more entertaining than some modern shows out there.
I believe you. I remember Aaron was a big fan of it back in the day too. He talked it up quite a bit. So I will add it to the list. I have to catch up on House of Dragons. I've only seen the first 2 episodes.
Oh, really?
So, I'm up to date. Oh,
so I haven't seen since they changed the actresses. I haven't seen.
Yeah, I did see that they did that, which is Is it because I don't want to talk about spoiler stuff, but
But the book they based it on runs through time quickly. So
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. I did finish Better Call Saul actually this morning.
okay, what do you
Yesterday
say?
morning.
It's would it be better or worse than Monk? You think?
I can't say I've not seen Monk.
I know.
But I immediately after I finished it, I went to the episode where Saul is introduced in Breaking Bad, just for like fun context. That was a fun experiment. I highly recommend doing that if you watch Better Call Saul, which
I still gotta
everybody should do.
finish. I still gotta finish Breaking Bad.
Oh, really? Oh, you didn't finish Breaking Bad? That ends so good. So
I'm sure it
well.
does.
It does.
Like
Right. Superman
show that
does
quits
good.
while
The
it's
show does
ahead.
well.
It's just awesome.
See, wouldn't that be nice? Video games, you need editors. You need to quit while you're ahead.
What was the one we were talking about this week where you're like, games need editors? You sent me a screenshot of a game and its length. What game are we talking about?
Oh, but it was some game that we were...
God of War.
Oh, God of War, right? Yeah, it was 40 hours for God of War Ragnarok. I'm like, why is it twice as long as the last one?
40 hours just for a single playthrough of God of War. That honestly turns me off to the game.
It does. Like, well, because especially like God of War, the first game, 20 hours, and I was already bored. I was getting bored of the combat and gameplay there. So you're telling me 40 more hours of that? I'm good, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'll play it someday.
I'll watch it on YouTube.
Right. It's getting to that point. That's such a long time.
That is. I did not realize it was going to be that long.
It's like you put both sequels. It's like you had a trilogy. You're like, let's just do 2 in 1, actually.
All right, we're putting CB on it. CB's reviewing God of War Ragnarok for us.
Right. He'll beat it in 2 hours somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do the time warp again.
All he's got to do is ignore his job and his family, and he'll get through it.
Yeah. Alyssa, any recommendations?
Well, I love this. Probably no one else cares at all. But Fruits Basket Prelude came out on Crunchyroll Friday as of the time of filming. And it was both English dub and in sub. I watched it dub because that's how I watch the series. And you do need to watch the series to watch this movie. But it was so good. I bawled like a baby. But it was it just animated a really important part of the manga that they didn't include in the series. And then also they did show some moments from the series, but it's from a different character's point of view, so it felt fresh. And it was everything I wanted and more, and it was just so great. And of course I had to watch it on the day it launched because I have a Fruits Basket tattoo. I am that obsessed with Fruits Basket. So
I was gonna say, is Fruits Basket like your favorite thing on the planet?
Favorite anime, yeah.
Yeah.
Never even heard of it. I'm sorry.
It's so good. You have to get past the first episode. The first episode's a little slow, but yeah, it gets dark sometimes.
Hey, one episode I can deal with. I love that you say just get past one episode.
Well,
and
you
then
need
it
to
gets
watch
good.
the first episode. It's just slow.
No, I know, but I'm just saying most people are like, you gotta get the first 2 seasons. And
Yeah,
then
it doesn't
really
get great till the middle of season 2, but man, it's so worth
If someone
it.
tells me that, I'm like, I don't want to watch it then.
Hey,
Yeah.
Schitt's Creek says hello, Zach. Just saying.
What do you mean?
I actually liked Schitt's Creek from the first episode.
No,
Yeah.
you're saying like once you get everyone says once you get this 2,
Oh, okay.
season 2 is when
So
that show
people
gets
say-
good.
Yeah,
Even you said that.
That's when it finds its footing. But then by season 6, you're like, all right, can we just wrap this?
Oh, really?
That's how I felt. I know I'm in the minority there. By the time I was like, okay, now we're getting a little self-indulgent here.
I made it to the beginning of season 2 and then never kept it.
Oh,
going
I
for
watched the
seasons.
whole thing, and I'm not a fan of comedies, but I loved Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
As for me, recommendation I have is not an old one, but I finished that book that Zach recommended. Stay a while and listen.
Stay a while and listen.
And since I'm on a subscription service for my audiobooks, I have to wait until the beginning of November to get my next one. So I decided to go back and re-listen to Armada by Ernest Cline. And I really like that book. It is not going to give you any new ideas. There's some new ideas, but the basic core concept and, the quote-unquote surprises that aren't really surprises you see a mile away coming are obvious, but it's a lot of fun. And the more I listen to this listen through, I want this one to be a movie. This would make such a good movie. Better than Ready Player One.
I feel like I feel like I've heard that from a lot of fans of his work, that Armada would be a better movie.
Yeah.
I need to read Armada.
Have you read it?
No, I haven't read it now.
Oh man.
I own it, and I still haven't read it.
You own the audiobook or the physical
No, the
book?
physical book. But that's the story of my life. I have so many physical books, and a lot of them I haven't read. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
need to get to it, but they just sit there.
Well,
Understand.
Armada's audiobook is great because Will Wheaton does a really good job of narrating.
He seems like the right guy for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same guy that did Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, and
Right. Are you going to use your November credit for Control Freak, the Cliff Bleszinski memoir?
didn't know is that the new one?
Yeah, I think it comes out November 8th. It's his memoir. Yeah, it got delayed. It was supposed to come out earlier this year.
I don't know. I have not decided what I'm going to do yet. I've had a few recommendations. After finishing Console Wars, Kevin recommended another story of Sega, which I feel like I just could be a lot of the same information, just not as interestingly told. So I don't know if I want to go there yet, but
I figure I just thought you would have been all over Cliff Bleszinski writing a book.
well, I knew he wrote the book, but I didn't. But remember, I actually pitched him to do the audiobook narration. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So would
Yeah.
it hurt too much?
Huh?
Would it hurt too much to
No,
listen to?
not at all. I was saying that's how I was proving that I was interested in it. But
Oh, okay.
I don't know who's doing the book narration, but I would definitely listen to it. But gotta wait till November 8th. Can't wait that long. I got maybe for December that'll be my book.
Gotta
Dude,
get in
I'm
there.
eating up audiobooks. Like I'm seriously doing.
Hey, yeah, my job allows me to. I'm flying through audiobooks left and right. I'm checking them out from the library though.
Oh yeah,
So, yeah,
maybe I should do that.
they're cheaper that way.
Well, yeah.
There's
like 15.
some like, if it's a huge hit series like Brandon Sanderson, those stuff usually isn't available on the free.
But you can find something to
audiobook
listen
app.
to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to The Gaming Outsider. I'd like to remind you that the podcast is produced by Mr. Nate Lucas, and all the music you hear is written and performed by Grant Henry of Stemage and Metroid Metal. His website is stemagemusic.com, STEMAGE music.com. Please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Zack Parkerson and Alyssa White, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game. Just games that aren't for you.